Chapter 593. The people Hua Tsubing was waiting for were naturally Ouyang Shuo and his party. In the night, the divine martial guards charged into the messy campsite like a hurricane. When Ouyang Shuo tossed out Prince Wuxian's head, the entire campsite was in an uproar. "General, I did not disappoint you." Ouyang Shuo came to Hua Tsubing and reported the results. "Good." Hua Tsubing was still as concise as ever, but his eyes were filled with joy and a hint of shock. After years of dealing with the Xiongnu, Hua Tsubing knew how fast Prince Wuxian could escape if he wanted to. Even he was not confident that he could catch up to Prince Wuxian. Who would have thought that Prince Wuxian's head would be taken by this person in less than 4 hours? Ouyang Shuo was still thinking about how to get closer to Hua Tsubing when the announcement suddenly sounded. Announcement. Congratulations to player Please Call Me Grey Wolf for finding the lost Li Guang and successfully subduing the King General Li Guang. The Battle of Ma Bei has officially ended. Battle announcement. General Wei Qing has successfully led his troops to take down Zhao Xian City. Hun Nun Izzy Xie Chanyu has escaped amidst the chaos. No one has killed him. Wei Qing's subjugation mission has failed. Wei Qing's rout in the Battle of Mo Bei has officially ended. Announcement. Congratulations to player Not Wui for assisting the cavalry General Hua Tsubing in killing the Xiongnu's Prince Wuxian. As Not Wui is the only lord left on Hua Tsubing's route, it has been determined that Not Wui has completed Hua Tsubing's mission and successfully subdued the god General Hua Tsubing. The Battle of Ma Bei has officially ended. 3 battle announcements in a row dazzled the lords who were still on the battle map. 3 days ago, Wei Qing had already taken down Zhao Xian City. Of the 18 lords on Wei Qing's route, 8 survived when they took down Zhao Xian City, including Feng Xiuhuang, Lord Chunxin, Xiongba, and others. Unfortunately, these lords could not find the chief of the Xiongnu even after searching all over the grasslands. There was no news of him for several days. Not to mention the lords, even the Huns couldn't find their Chanyu. Chief Izixi was separated from his troops and was mistaken for dead on the battlefield. King Li of the Right Valley made himself the chief. As for finding Li Guang's lord, Please Call Me Grey Wolf, it wasn't all luck. Just like his name, this person possessed a spiritual beast wolf, just like Ouyang Shuo. It was with this wolf, Please Call Me Grey Wolf, that he found Li Guang early and successfully tamed him. The reason why Gaia did not issue a battle announcement was because it was waiting for the final route, the Hua Cures Illness route. The mission of this route was to be the first to reach Wolf Story Mountain. Unfortunately, Prince Wuxian had been killed by Ouyang Shuo, and Hua Tsubing had lost his target. If the plot continued to develop, Hua Tsubing would probably have to return home. It was precisely because of this that Gaia decisively decided that this route had officially ended. Due to Zhang Liao's forfeiture and the fact that Ouyang Shuo's troops had indeed contributed greatly, Ouyang Shuo had naturally won the mission of subduing Hua Tsubing. Once this route ended, Gaia also ended Wei Qing's route without hesitation. The Lord's last glimmer of hope was also shattered. Ouyang Shuo's ambition was also part of it. Originally, he had planned to urge Hua Tsubing to lead his troops to help Wei Qing after killing Prince Wuxian, and then use Little White's ability to find the Xiongnu Chanyu. Who would have thought that Gaia would be so decisive? The Battle of Ma Bei was officially coming to an end. With the announcement of the battle announcement, Ouyang Shuo and Hua Tsubing's roles were immediately reversed. In the central military tent, Hua Tsubing formally greeted Ouyang Shuo. General Hua Tsubing greets the Marquis. Hua Tsubing bowed solemnly. "General, please rise. I have admired you for a long time," Ouyang Shuo said with a smile. Then, he eagerly checked Hua Tsubing's attributes. Name, Hua Tsubing God Tier. Title, one of the 10 great ancient generals of China Dynasty. Western Han Dynasty Identity. General of Shanghai City. Occupation. Special Class General. Loyalty. 75 Commander. 95 Martial Power. 85 Intelligence. 88 Politics. 42 Specialty. Cavalry. Increases the morale of cavalry troops by 30. Increases the speed of cavalry troops by 50. increases the lethality of cavalry troops by 35, increases the endurance of cavalry troops by 40. Technique: rupturing swordsmanship, total of 24 styles. Equipment: 8-faced Han sword. Remarks: Huitzubing used the fact that the Xiongnu had not been destroyed and was useless. He made the traders not only seek peace from the Xiongnu, but also from the Xiongnu. For more than 10 years, they floated at the West River, destroyed the Great Curtain, destroyed the Yin Kingdom, attacked the royal court, pursued them to the north, sealed the Wolf Story Mountain, surrendered to Guyane, and faced the vast sea. The Xiongnu were terrified. Huitzubing's attributes were about the same as Bai Qi's. Interestingly, Huitzubing's politics attribute was 3 points lower than Bai Qi's. He could be said to be a political idiot. It was no wonder that Huitzubing did not have much of a presence in the imperial court. In comparison, Wei Qing's politics had probably exceeded 80 points. He was a truly capable official. What Ouyang Shuo was most interested in was Huitzubing's specialty, cavalry battle. Huitzubing was indeed a genius in cavalry battle. With the support of this specialty, the combat power of cavalry unit had almost doubled. It was no wonder that he could lead his troops to dominate the Xiongnu's hinterland. It was a worthwhile trip to obtain such a divine general. It was late at night. Ouyang Shuo led his troops to rest. The next morning, another battle announcement sounded. Battle announcement: the Battle of Mabe has officially ended. Additional contribution points will be calculated based on the player's contribution to the battle and their contribution to the camp. Because all the lords in the China region belonged to the same camp, there was no such thing as a faction's victory or defeat in the Battle of Mabe. Instead, it went straight to the final battle summary. A system notification immediately sounded in Ouyang Shuo's ears. System notification: player who says that has no clothes led his troops to overcome all obstacles. They fought against the sandstorm, eliminated the desert bandits, subdued the Xiongnu, and killed the left virtuous prince. Due to all these contributions, an additional 40,000 contribution points will be awarded. Compared to the previous battles, the rewards for this battle were somewhat overshadowed. The biggest feature of the Battle of Mabe was the fight between the three historical generals. Even so, the contribution points that Ouyang Shuo obtained were still very impressive. After calculating the additional contribution points of all the players, the final battle contribution ranking was officially established. Rank, name, contribution points: first place, who says that has no clothes, 300,000 points. Second place, Lord Chunshin, 200,000 points. Third place, Feng Qiuhuang, 180,000 points. Fourth place, Bai Hua, 150,000 points. Fifth place, Wolf Warrior, 125,000 points. Sixth place, Di Chun, 120,000 points. Seventh place, Xiongba, 115,000 points. Eighth place, I Am Big Bad Wolf, 100,000 points. Ninth place, Dragon Point Seeking, 85,000 points. 10th place, Military Kill, 80,000 points. Looking at the entire battle contribution ranking, all the lords' contribution points had shrunk significantly. Even Ouyang Shuo, who had experienced more than 10 battles, only had half of what he had in the Battle of Giant Deer. The most fundamental reason was the number of soldiers participating in the battle. Whether it was the mutant army or the native army, the highest number was only 100,000. Naturally, it cannot be compared to the previous battles with millions of soldiers. After this battle, it would not have any decisive impact on the feudal lords' titles. In the Battle of Mabe, I Am Big Bad Wolf was the biggest winner. It was interesting that there would be a dark horse in every battle. Of course, no matter how dazzling I Am Big Bad Wolf was, he was not as dazzling as Ouyang Shuo. Putting everything else aside, the fact that Ouyang Shuo had topped the battle contribution ranking for the 5th time in a row was enough to leave the other lords in the dust. It was not an exaggeration to say that Ouyang Shuo had dominated the battle contribution ranking. Needless to say, Huitzubing had officially settled in Shanghai City, which broke the hearts of many lords. At the beginning of the battle, Ouyang Shuo obtained a bonus of 15 contribution points. Thus, his total contribution points was 345,000 points. After the battle, the Divine Martial Guards had lost more than 500 men. according to the battle settings. Every soldier that was revived required 20 contribution points, which was exactly twice the cost of killing an ordinary soldier. Gaia was really black-hearted to double it in the blink of an eye. Thus, to revive the divine martial guards, Ouyang Shua spent more than 10,000 contribution points. In the end, according to the exchange ratio of 10:1, Ouyang Shua obtained 333,400 contribution points. As for the battle mall, there was nothing that interested Ouyang Shua, so he directly ignored it. In addition to the 10,000 contribution points that Ouyang Shua was rewarded at the beginning of the battle, Ouyang Shua obtained a total of 433,400 contribution points in the Battle of Mabe. Thus, Ouyang Shua checked his total contribution points. It had reached 420,000 points, which was more than half of the 1 million contribution points that the Duke requested. If he continued to obtain this amount of contribution points, he did not know when he would have to wait. If he really wanted to quickly obtain contribution points, he would have to rely on the nation war. After the battle contribution points were tallied, the battle mall was also emptied by the other lords. At this point, the battle had truly ended, and all the lords were teleported back to the main map. Ouyang Shua, who had won the championship 5 times in a row, was once again left at the end. He did not know what the special reward for being the champion this time would be. Given great Emperor Wu of Han's personality, he shouldn't be a petty person. While there was still time, Hua Tsubing, who had already submitted, introduced someone to Ouyang Shua. This person was none other than Hua Tsubing's major, Zhao Bonu. Hua Tsubing was going to become an official in Shanghai City. As Hua Tsubing's loyal follower, Zhao Bonu naturally had to follow him. When Ouyang Shua heard this, he chuckled. He did not expect that there would be a buy-one-get-one free deal when subduing a general. Of course, Zhao Bonu was not considered a general. Even if Gaia rated him as a king-level general, he was still one of the weaker ones. Chapter 594. In any case, Ouyang Shua still checked Zhao Bonu's attributes. Name, Zhao Bonu, king-level, dynasty, Western Han Dynasty, identity, Shanghai City General, occupation, high-level general, loyalty, 70 commander, 70 martial power, 72 intelligence, 45 politics, 35 specialty, penetration, increases attack power by 10, marching speed by 20. Technique, rupture sword technique, total of 24 stances, equipment, 6-faced Han sword, evaluation. Zhao Bonu, a native of Taiyuan, wandered in the Xiongnu region when he was young. He later joined the Han army and became Hua Tsubing's major. He fought several battles and was promoted to General Junji. He was later implicated by the witch curse, and his clan was exterminated. Zhao Bonu's attributes were indeed not impressive. His core attributes, commander and martial power, had barely reached the minimum requirement of 70 points. As for intelligence and politics, they were even worse. On the other hand, Zhao Bonu's specialty, assault, had its merits. All in all, Zhao Bonu was mediocre and did not have any outstanding performances. In history, after Hua Tsubing's death, Zhao Bonu became General Junji and led 20,000 cavalry to attack Prince Wuxian. Prince Wuxian fought and sent 80,000 cavalry to surround Zhao Bonu's army. Zhao Bonu was captured alive by the Xiongnu, and his army was completely annihilated. Ouyang Shua was not disappointed by this. The expansion of the 3 armies happened to be the time when they needed generals. No matter what, Zhao Bonu was still able to take on the position of a division commander, and he was a cut above the generals that the territory had groomed. While there was still some time, Ouyang Shua recalled the item that Prince Wuxian had dropped yesterday. He had not checked it because he had fallen asleep in a hurry. The item that Prince Wuxian dropped was a small booklet, Xiongnu War Knife Forging Technique Manual. After using it, you will know how to forge Xiongnu war knives. Shanghai City did not have much need for Xiongnu war knives with the existence of Tang knives. At most, he would combine the forging techniques of the Xiongnu war saber and make some improvements to the Tang saber. Of course, with the Mongolian cavalry training diary that Zhou Yafu had dropped, it was not impossible for Shanghai City to build a Mongolian elite cavalry in the future. The diversification of cavalry had always been Ouyang Shua's goal. The Xiongnu cavalry, including the Mongolian cavalry, had their own strengths. Otherwise, they would not have been able to conquer the world. Apart from that, the only thing Ouyang Shua could think of was making money. Shanghai City might not need the Xiongnu war saber, but that didn't mean that the other territories didn't need it. In addition, this kind of saber would definitely be very attractive to adventure-type players. This was especially so for adventure-type bladesmen. They were even more infatuated with the Xiongnu war saber. Therefore, the existence of this booklet was equivalent to Shanghai City having a new source of income. Prince Wuxian is a good person, Ouyang Shua mocked in his heart. After such a delay, the final reward was finally delivered to Ouyang Shua. Ouyang Shua received it and took a look. It was a command token, Xiongnu horseplate. After use, one can obtain 10,000 superior Xiongnu warhorses. How generous! After Ouyang Shua finished looking at the horseplate, he couldn't help but applaud Emperor Wu. Of course, Ouyang Shua guessed that these Xiongnu warhorses were the spoils of war. It was not a loss for Emperor Wu to use the spoils of war to reward him, the most meritorious person among the mutants. Before this, Ouyang Shua was still worried that with the rapid expansion of the territory's army, even with the supply from the Providence Lake Military Farm and the Storm Valley Military Farm, the demand for cyan beetle horses still couldn't meet the supply. With this horseplate, the War Office could build another army farm. This way, the territory's short-term need for war horses could be solved. Training methods, war horses, and sabers were all linked together. It seemed that Shanghai City was destined to have an elite Mongolian cavalry. Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. Without further delay, he led his troops out of the map. When Ouyang Shua and his group returned to the main plain, it was already the 20th of the first month. The moment he walked out of the teleportation formation, a system announcement rang in his ears. System announcement. The Battle of Mabe has officially ended. The main historical figures of the Western Han Dynasty have been automatically added to the game. Please explore on your own. Unknowingly, history had progressed to the Western Han Dynasty. Among the historical figures of the Western Han Dynasty, Ouyang Shua paid more attention to Wang Zhaojun because it was related to the Four Beauties mission. As for the other historical figures, it could only be said that it was up to fate. What followed was the Eastern Han Dynasty, especially the last years of the Eastern Han Dynasty. War broke out everywhere as heroes fought for supremacy. There were countless valiant generals and famous scholars. It was truly a period of talent explosion comparable to the Warring States period. Zhou Yu, Zhao Yun, Lu Bu, Jia Su, Guijia, Zhuge Liang, Lu Sun, Dian Wei, every name could be said to be a household name. There was no lord who did not look forward to the arrival of the Eastern Han Dynasty. However, Ouyang Shua had already planned for the sixth battle that would follow soon after. As for the specifics, he still had to wait for some time. This was because according to Gaia's settings, the sixth battle's trigger condition was for the China region to have 50 cities. With the current situation of the 15 cities in the China region, it was unlikely that this condition could be met in a short period of time. Following that, another system announcement appeared. System announcement. Emperor Wu of Han has officially taken over Luoyang City. Luoyang's court has been replaced by the Han Dynasty. Wei Qing, Zhang Qian, Zhu Fuyan, Sima Qian, Sima Xiangru, Dong Zhongshu, and other famous officials and generals have automatically joined the Han Dynasty. Emperor Wu of Han was not just for show. After Qin Shi Huang, another ancient ruler of China, Emperor Wu of Han, had finally appeared in the wilderness. Of course, with Qin Shi Huang as the precedent, the players of the China region were not too surprised that Emperor Wu of Han had taken over the wilderness. Logically speaking, the capital of the Western Han Dynasty should be Chang'an. As for Luoyang, it was the capital of the Eastern Han Dynasty. However, there was another dynasty, Tang Dynasty, whose capital was also Chang'an. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, Gaia chose to set Luoyang as the capital of the Han Dynasty. There were only 9 emperors in the 9 king cities. According to the chronology of the dynasties in China, there there were far more than 9 emperors. Therefore, Gaia naturally had to make a choice. Even Ouyang Shuo did not know everything about it. After all, in the 5 years of his previous life, there were still some dynasties that did not participate in the historical process. As Emperor Wu of Han entered Luoyang, the Central Plains province that had just calmed down would probably be stirred up again. One had to know that in the third system update, Gaia had removed the outer barrier of the capital. A capital, especially one with an emperor station in it, would definitely have a greater impact on the wilderness. At the very least, the decisive Emperor Wu of Han would definitely not allow the prefecture where Luoyang was to be encroached upon by a lord of a different race. It was the same reason why the surrounding areas of Xianyang City were occupied by Qin Shi Huang. After the Spring Festival, there would probably be another battle in the Central Plains province. Of course, this worry was only limited to the lords of the Central Plains province. What truly pained the other lords was that Wei Qing, Zhang Qian, Dong Zhongshu, and the other famous officials and generals had made it clear that they were not fated to be with them. If Hua Tsubing had not been subdued by Ouyang Shuo, he probably would not have been able to escape. If he really wanted to subdue them, the only way was to conquer the capital and become their new lord. Of course, there were probably not many lords who had the courage and boldness to compete with the Emperor Wu of Han. After returning to the wilderness, Hua Tsubing received a large amount of historical information in his mind. He did not know how he felt when he learned that Emperor Wu of Han had appeared in the wilderness. On the other hand, when Zhao Bonu learned that his clan had been exterminated, he no longer had any thoughts about Emperor Wu. Ouyang Shuo even received a system notification that Zhao Bonu's loyalty had increased by 10 points. How ironic. There was no doubt that Ouyang Shuo treated Hua Tsubing well. As soon as he returned to the residence, Ouyang Shuo immediately announced Hua Tsubing's appointment. He appointed Hua Tsubing as the commander of the Imperial Guard and gave him the rank of general. At the same time, he appointed Zhao Bonu as the commander of the Dragon Stallion Army's 2nd Division. Logically speaking, as a god-rank general, Hua Tsubing should be able to lead an army like by Qi and Han Xin. But Ouyang Shuo did not do so. Firstly, the territorial army had just expanded, so it was not appropriate to establish a new army. Secondly, the newly formed Imperial Guard Corps just happened to lack a general to hold the fort. Given the Imperial Guard's position in the territorial army, it would not be a disgrace to Hua Tsubing. More importantly, Hua Tsubing was a sharp blade. He was an outstanding general, but he was not a qualified commander-in-chief. It was Hua Tsubing's strength to lead troops in a battle. However, it would be a little difficult for Hua Tsubing to lead an army that was composed of all kinds of troops. Taking a step back, as Ouyang Shuo's personal army, the Imperial Guard needed such a general. After all these considerations, Ouyang Shuo had already calculated how he would arrange Hua Tsubing's position if he succeeded in subduing him. After settling Hua Tsubing down, Ouyang Shuo immediately summoned Xiaohong. "Greetings, Marquis." Xiaohong was a little surprised by Ouyang Shuo's summons. "Take a look at this." Ouyang Shuo handed over the Xiongnu horse token. This is... Xiaohong took a look, unable to conceal his excitement. As the head of the Imperial Guard, Xiaohong was even more worried about war horses than Ouyang Shuo. He knew all too well what this horse token meant to the territory. "Hurry up and choose a grassland within the territory to build a military horse farm," Ouyang Shuo said with a smile. In the game, the map was expanded 10 times. It was not too difficult for a lord to choose a horse farm. "Rest assured, Marquis, in 3 days, at most 3 days, there will be a result." Xiaohong was full of confidence. As the head of the Imperial Guard, Xiaohong had long investigated which places were suitable to build a horse farm in the territory. 3 days was just a selection based on the current foundation. "I naturally have no worries about head Xia." Ouyang Shuo was very satisfied with this head of the Imperial Guard. Chapter 595. After returning to Shanghai City, Ouyang Shuo began to prepare for the conference. On the 2nd day of the 1st month, Gaia's 3rd year, February 4th, Ouyang Shuo would hold his wedding. Therefore, Ouyang Shuo deliberately moved the second conference of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas to before the new year. In Cliff Mountain City, Tian Wenjing had already built a courtyard for the conference and was waiting for the guests. Considering the sea view, the courtyard was built in the Tina district to the west of Cliff Mountain City. The specific location was the most famous Tina Haijiao in reality. Tian Wenjing had arranged for people to isolate the entire bay, and it was the exclusive use of the courtyard. Only in the game could one enjoy such a heaven-defying treatment. Ouyang Shuo naturally did not need to ask about the specific reception. What he was worried about was the contents of the conference. In this year's conference, Ouyang Shuo planned to make a big move to strengthen the alliance. Territories such as Dragon-Seeking City, Black Lion City, and Heartstone City were declining day by day, which made Ouyang Shuo feel a sense of crisis. As the leader of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas, Ouyang Shuo had to step forward and turn the tide. February 21st, Luoyang. On the second day after Emperor Wu of Han took over Luoyang, he announced his political idea: dismiss the 100 schools of thought and honor Confucianism. In Luoyang City, from the imperial court to the academies, there would be professors of the 5 classics who would teach Confucian classics such as the Book of Songs, the Book of Rites, the Book of Changes, and the Spring and Autumn Annals. The new Confucianism, or Confucianism, was the only theory recognized by the imperial court in Luoyang. The essence of Confucianism was to maintain the feudal order and deify the monarchy. Therefore, it was respected by the feudal rulers of China and became the orthodox and mainstream theory of China's traditional culture for more than 2,000 years. For a while, the 100 schools of thought in Luoyang were expelled by the imperial court. The world changed color. What happened in history in the Western Han Dynasty was once again reflected in the wilderness. The players couldn't help but think of the Confucian expulsion order issued by Emperor Qin when he took over Xianyang City. The two could be said to be at loggerheads. From the looks of it, the two peerless emperors were going to have a secret contest in the wilderness. The clash of the 100 schools of thought became a hot topic in the wilderness once again. Interestingly, the advocate of Confucianism, Dong Zhongshu, who was a favorite of Emperor Wu of Han, personally invited Confucius to give a lecture in Luoyang, but was politely rejected. Obviously, Confucius did not completely agree with the so-called study of Confucian classics. There was actually a discrepancy between the two. The study of Confucian classics was merely a distillation of Confucius's idea of great unification in order to safeguard the supreme imperial power. In reality, it was different from Confucius's truest opinion and was biased towards the whole. Naturally, Shanghai City benefited the most from Emperor Wu of Han's revered Confucianism. As the holy land of the 100 clans and the 100 clans' progeny who had been banished by Emperor Wu of Han, Shanghai City naturally became their first choice. The 100 clans' children that came to Shanghai City every day numbered in the hundreds. It was an unprecedented grand occasion. Accompanying the 100 clans' child to Shanghai City was another incredible figure. He was Hua Zhubing's younger half-brother, Hua Guang. Hua Guang's father was called Hua Zhongru. In 141 BC, he was sent to serve the Marquis of Pingyang as a county official. Hua Zhongru had an affair with Wei Xiao, the daughter of Marquis Pingyang's handmaiden, Wei Xiao, and gave birth to Hua Zhubing. After Hua Zhongru completed his mission, he returned home, married another wife, and gave birth to Hua Guang. In 121 BC, Hua Zhubing was appointed as the general of the White Cavalry. On his way to attack the Xiongnu, he was welcomed by the governor of Hedong to the Marquis of Pingyang, who sent someone to invite Hua Zhongru to meet him. Hua Zhubing bought a large amount of land, houses, and servants for Hua Zhongru before leaving. On his triumphant return, he once again visited Hua Zhongru and brought his half-brother, Hua Guang, to Chang and to take care of. Hua Guang was only 10 years old at that time. With Hua Zhubing's help, he was first appointed as a provincial official before being promoted to an official. In 117 BC, Hua Zhubing passed away. Hua Guang was promoted to the position of imperial military officer and imperial minister. He served Emperor Wu of Han entering and exiting the palace for more than 20 years without making a single mistake. Because of this, he was trusted by Emperor Wu of Han and became an assistant minister entrusted to him. Compared to his brother Hua Xiubing's illustrious reputation in the military, Hua Guang's achievements were not small either. He served through the reigns of Emperor Wu of Han, Emperor Zhao of Han, and Emperor Xin of Han, reaching the rank of Grand General. During the reign of Emperor Xin of Han, due to the surrender of Xiongnu, he recalled the meritorious ministers he had assisted in the past and ordered people to draw pictures of 11 meritorious ministers to be displayed in the Qilin Pavilion to commemorate and praise them. Hua Guang was listed as the first of the 11 meritorious ministers in the Qilin Pavilion. The two brothers also had completely different desires for power. Hua Xiubing was born with a heroic spirit of loyalty to the emperor and did not covet fame or fortune. His younger brother, Hua Guang, was a powerful minister. In history, Hua Guang was often mentioned together with Yi Yin of the Shang dynasty. Later generations often used the name Yi Hua to refer to the ministers who had deposed the emperor. Because of this, the final outcome of the Hua family was very tragic. 2 years after Hua Guang's death, the Hua family's rebellion was exposed and the entire Hua family was executed. As the Western Han dynasty entered history, Hua Guang's family followed into the wilderness. Knowing the direction of history, Hua Guang naturally did not have the courage nor the desire to serve under Emperor Wu of Han. Therefore, seeking refuge with his brother, Hua Xiubing, was a good choice. Hua Xiubing died young. When he entered the wilderness, he was only in his 20s. Therefore, as Hua Xiubing's younger brother, Hua Guang was naturally set to be a young man. He was not the famous General Hua of later generations. However, he already had his memories and abilities. His wife Xian, son Huiyu, and daughter Hua Qingjun arrived at Shanghai City together with Hua Guang. Huiyu, the culprit behind the extermination of the Hua family, was executed at the waist in history. Hua Qingjun, the second empress during the reign of Emperor Xin of Han. When the entire Hua family was executed, Hua Qingjun was also deposed in Zhaodai Palace and committed suicide 12 years later. The two people who appeared in the wilderness were only 4 or 5 years old. Hua Qingjun, in particular, looked like an adorable little girl. Looking at the bustling Shanghai city, he was extremely excited. Hua Qingjun was able to become empress because of his mother Xian. When Su Pingjun, the first empress of Emperor Xin of Han, was giving birth, she bribed the imperial doctors and poisoned Su Pingjun to death. This drama was filmed in reality into a TV series called A Black Dragon Goes Through Love. The female lead, Hua Shuixian, was modeled after Hua Qingjun. Once the TV series was released, it immediately became popular all over the country. Hua Shuixian, played by Chao Ying, became an unsurpassable goddess in the hearts of many boys. Ouyang Sha naturally welcomed the arrival of Hua Guang and his party. Historically, a very important reason why Hua Guang took the path of a powerful minister was that the young emperor was weak. This objectively provided the soil for Hua Guang to monopolize power. Hua Guang, who had no foundation in Shanghai City, naturally could not become a powerful minister. Just like during the reign of Emperor Wu of Han, Hua Guang did not show any signs of being a powerful minister. Moreover, Shanghai City was full of talents. Not to mention the 4 directors, even second-grade directors like Zhang Tingyu and Su Zhou were enough to compete with Hua Guang. Therefore, when he came to Shanghai City, Hua Guang's only way out was to integrate into the system of Shanghai City. Removing the cloak of a powerful minister, Hua Guang's ability to handle government affairs was very high. Emperor Xin of Han even compared Hua Guang to the first prime minister of Western Han, Xiao He. In the main hall, Ouyang Shuo received Hua Guang and his family. Your humble servant, Hua Guang, pays respect to the marquis. Hua Guang was very tactful. When he saw Ouyang Shuo, he bowed his head. The glory of the great general and commander-in-chief had long become a memory. The current Hua Guang was just an ordinary official who had just started his career. Hua Guang had a very clear understanding of this. Pay respect to the marquis. After Hua Guang, his wife, Hui Xian, Hui Yu, and Hua Chujun knelt one by one under Hua Guang's signal. The little lowly, Hua Chengjun, looked at Ouyang Shuo with eyes full of curiosity. She was not afraid at all. "Everyone, please rise." Ouyang Shuo lightly smiled and made a gesture of being courteous to the wise. Taking the opportunity, Ouyang Shuo checked Hua Guang's attributes. Name, Hua Guang, Emperor level, dynasty, Western Han identity, Shanghai City civil official occupation, civil official loyalty, 75 points commander, 70 martial strength, 55 intelligence, 70 politics, 90 specialty, powerful official, increases territorial work efficiency by 20, increases territorial political index by 10, increases territorial governance by 15. Evaluation. Hua Guang was entrusted by an infant to serve the Han dynasty. He governed the country, brought peace to the people, supported the Zhao dynasty, and established proclamation. Although the Duke of Zhou and Hung were not included in this. However, Guang did not learn the art of death and was disgraced. He plotted against his wife and made his daughter his empress. He indulged in overflowing lust to increase the disaster of subversion. He died only 3 years ago, and his clan was exterminated. What a pity. Hua Guang was indeed extraordinary. He was rated as emperor level by Gaia. He had almost no shortcomings in the four-dimensional attributes. That afternoon, the Protectorate of Southern Border announced Hua Guang's appointment. The tax department under the General Administration of Finance was officially upgraded to the tax department, which was in charge of the territory's taxes. Hua Guang was appointed as the first director of the tax department. The former director of the tax department, Qin Shun, was transferred to the position of deputy director of the tax department. It took Ouyang Shuo a lot of effort to appoint Hua Guang. The General Administration of Administration was managed by Xiao He. In order to avoid suspicion, Hua Guang was not suitable to serve in this department. Other than that, there was the Internal Affairs Department and the General Administration of Finance. Considering that his brother, Hua Xubing, was the commander of the Imperial Guards, it was not suitable for Hua Guang to serve in a sensitive department like the Internal Affairs Department. Finally, Ouyang Shuo decided on the General Administration of Finance. With Hua Guang's ability, it was within his capabilities to be in charge of the tax department, and it was quite suitable. Of course, in the future, if Hua Guang performed well, it was not impossible for him to be sent out to serve. However, the army was definitely a forbidden ground for Hua Guang. Ouyang Shuo did not forget that the third year of Gaia was the year when the aristocratic families rose. How to balance the gradually rising aristocratic families and factions in the territory had become an important matter in Ouyang Shuo's mind. The most important thing was to take strict precautions at the source. Chapter 596. The end of the year was approaching, and it seemed to be a good time to visit relatives and friends. After Hua Guang, another person came to Shanghai City the next day. He was Zhao Kuo's father, Ma Fujun, Zhao Shi. Speaking of Zhao Shi, the most famous battle was none other than the Battle of Baiyu. It was in this battle that Zhao Shi led his troops and defeated the insufferably arrogant Qin army, becoming famous throughout the 6 states. After the battle, King Huiyuan of Zhao bestowed upon Zhao Shi the title of Ma Fujun. Zhao Shi became in existence on the same level as Lin Pe and Lin Xiangru. By the time the Battle of Chongping ended, Zhao Shi had already entered the wilderness. Zhao Kuo's defeat in Chongping had destroyed the foundation of the Zhao state. Zhao Shi was very ashamed and had been unwilling to see his father ever since. Zhao Shi had been paying close attention to his son, Zhao Kuo's performance all this while. On this day, Zhao Kuo had finally made a name for himself in Shanghai City. During the Battle of the Mabe Desert, he had joined the army and become Ouyang Shuo's military advisor. Only then did Zhao Kuo gain Zhao Shi's approval. It just so happened that the end of the year was approaching, which was why Zhao Shi chose this time to come to Shanghai City to become an official. Other members of the Zhao family also arrived with Zhao Shi. Zhao Kuo was the happiest when Zhao Shi came to Shanghai City. Longing, admiration, recognition, all kinds of emotions intertwined in Zhao Kuo's heart. The scene of father and son meeting was very touching. At this moment, both Zhao Shi and Zhao Kuo were filled with mixed emotions. Ouyang Shuo didn't disturb the father and son. Zhao Shi, on the other hand, was unusually forthright. After briefly reminiscing about their parting, he immediately paid his respects to Ouyang Shuo and swore his loyalty without any hesitation. The style of a military general was undoubtedly revealed. At this point, Shanghai City had gained another great general. Name: Zhao Shi, king level, dynasty, warring states. Zhao, identity, general of Shanghai City. Profession: advanced general. Loyalty: 75 commander, 78 martial power, 70 intelligence, 58 politics, 55 specialty. Pursuit: increases attack power by 15, increases marching speed by 20. Martial arts: omitted equipment, omitted evaluation. Zhao Zhima's admiration: a stern and forgiving man. As the officials listened, the military bells rang loudly. The military rewards were exhausted, and the family matters were forgotten. Since the flying mole had made a move, how could Yin Zhu let it go? Lian Lin and Ji Ming looked at each other. The wisdom of knowing one's son is the light of justice. Zhao Shi's attributes were top-notch among king-class generals. If it wasn't for the fact that there were many famous generals during the Warring States period, Zhao Shi would have been rated as an imperial general. Ouyang Shuo didn't hesitate and immediately appointed Zhao Shi as the commander of the Brave Tiger Legion's 2nd Corps' 3rd Division. Based on Zhao Shi's character, he was able to uphold justice and was upright. The most suitable position for him should be the director of the Military Law Department of the General Administration of Military Affairs, also known as the General Military Judge. Because there was no suitable candidate for this position, it had always been held by Du Ruhui. Unfortunately, Zhao Kuo was already the deputy director of the General Administration of Military Affairs. If the father and son held important positions in the same department, it would be criticized. Ouyang Shuo could only settle for the next best thing and arrange for Zhao Shi to serve in the stalwart Tiger Army. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ouyang Shuo directly appointed the director of the Department of Military Justice. To the surprise of Du Ruhui and the others, the candidate he selected was Feng Yinshan, a surrendered general of the Taiping Army who was still studying in the Army Martial Arts Lecture Hall. Like Zhao Shi, Feng Yinshan's character was also upright and outspoken. In addition, Feng Yinshan was born in the Army and had studied in the Army Martial Arts Lecture Hall. It was not a big deal for him to be appointed as the General Military Judge. In addition, Ouyang Shuo appointed Feng Yinshan as the General Military Judge for another reason. During the Army reorganization, more than half of the soldiers in the 3 Corps were surrendered soldiers of the Taiping Army. Their military discipline was lax, and they refused to be controlled. This matter had almost become a sore point for Du Ruhui, the director of military affairs. Feng Yinshan was born in the Taiping Army, which was both a disadvantage and an advantage. The appointment of a general of the Taiping Army as the General Military Judge was not only a consolation to the surrendered soldiers of the Taiping Army, but also a disguised warning to them that military discipline was not child's play. Therefore, for Feng Yinshan, the rectification of military discipline was a great test. Whether he could be ruthless to the Taiping Army was also a test for him by Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo believed that Feng Yinshan would certainly understand the deeper meaning of this. Of course, Feng Yinshan's promotion was also related to Sun Wu's recommendation. As the principal of the Army Martial Arts Lecture Hall, although Sun Wu did not participate in the territorial decision-making, he had made some comments and recommendations to the generals of the Martial Arts Lecture Hall at Ouyang Shuo's request. Only Ouyang Shuo was able to read his comments. It was in this comment that Sun Wu pointed out that Feng Yinshan had outstanding talent in military law. Therefore, after a comprehensive consideration, Ouyang Shuo finally chose Feng Yinshan. Ouyang Shuo was naturally very happy to have Hua Guang and Zhao Shi seek refuge in succession. Talents came uninvited, which was a sign of prosperity in the territory. Ouyang Shuo had reason to believe that the existence of Xiao He, Han Exine, Hua Zubing, Hua Guang, Xiao Hoying, and other famous generals of the Western Han Dynasty would be very attractive to the historical figures of the Western Han Dynasty. Unfortunately, during the Western Han Dynasty, Xiaohe's descendants were generally mediocre and had no talent. However, during the Northern and Southern dynasties, Xiaohe's 25th grandson, Xiaoyan, established the Liang dynasty and was known as Emperor Liang. 3 of Han Xian's clans were exterminated, leaving no descendants. Huashi's clan was also exterminated after Huoguang. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was for a clan to be able to last for hundreds of years. As an official in the court, a careless mistake could lead to the emperor exterminating his entire clan. Most of the famous talents of the Western Han dynasty were concentrated during the reign of Emperor Wu of Han. After that, there were few talents in the dynasties. The end of Emperor Wu of Han was also the turning point of the Western Han dynasty. The true explosion of talents would still have to wait until the Eastern Han dynasty. After dealing with the chores on hand, on the 24th of February, Ouyang Shua immediately set off for the location of the Alliance Conference, the Horizon Courtyard. Accompanying him were Song Jia and Bing. After being busy for a whole year, Ouyang Shua should spend time with his family and have a good rest. This Alliance Conference, on the other hand, was for a vacation. Not only Ouyang Shua, but Ouyang Shua had also informed the other participants to bring their families to attend the conference. This could also be considered a form of familial diplomacy. Apart from Song Jia, her parents were also invited. Previously, Song Jia had passed on the theory of transmigration that Ouyang Shua had instilled to her father, Song Tianxiong. From this, the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce's rise in Shanghai City began. Perfume, soap, doo-doo, cheongsam, and other novel items were all developed by the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce, becoming a real money-making tool. Needless to say, perfume and soap were popular among the ladies in the city the moment they appeared. The popularity of doo-doo, cheongsam, and other items was due to Shanghai City's specialty, colorful silk. The gorgeous colors made these 2 types of items instantly become best-selling items in the boudoir. In addition, as the Lord's wife, Song Jia personally promoted these products. She gathered the noble women in the city to display and promote these novel items. This way, it could truly be considered as opening the market. In a short period of time, the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce's reputation rose in the territory. With the hope of the Chamber of Commerce's rise, Song Tianxiong was naturally ambitious. Previously, Gaia introduced a limited-time exchange, and Song Tianxiong successfully persuaded his family to take the opportunity to exchange 400,000 gold coins. Other than repaying the loan, the rest of the funds were invested into the Chamber of Commerce's operations. Song Tianxiong's goal was to sell these products to the various king cities, especially the perfume, which was small and had high profits. Through the player's storage bags, it could be easily transported to the various king cities for sale. Of course, there were also hidden worries. These items, in the eyes of the natives, were naturally novel, but in the eyes of the knowledgeable players, they could see through the principles at a glance. It was reported that similar items had appeared in various parts of China. At this time, there was no patent in China. Besides, strictly speaking, the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce itself was plagiarizing product from the real world. What right did they have to pursue the infringement of others? In this regard, Song Tianxiong could do nothing. He could only hope to use strong funds to build up the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce's brand and do his best to occupy the market share. As for monopolizing it, it was somewhat delusional. Not to mention other things, within the territory, the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce also had competitors. The biggest competitor was naturally a Thread, whose headquarters was in Cliff Mountain City. A Thread was originally a pure professional guild with a large number of high-level professional players. Its ability to develop perfume, bellyband, cheongsam, and other items was even stronger than the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce. It hadn't done it before because it was limited by inertia. Once it was awakened, it couldn't be stopped. In less than a month, the perfume and other items that a Thread launched far surpassed the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce in terms of variety and quality, giving Song Tianxiong a headache. As for the advantage of funds, there was no need to mention it. No matter how strong the Song clan was, it was not enough to be compared to a guild. A thread was developing rapidly in Cliff Mountain City, and the number of members had once again climbed to the level of 100,000 people. There was already an organization that relisted a thread as one of the top 10 guilds in the China region. The funds that could be used by a thread were all in the millions. For a time, a thread actually had the momentum of catching up, and its momentum soared. Fortunately, at the crucial moment, Song Jia once again stepped forward bravely. With her acting as a go-between, she facilitated another professional guild in the territory, Falling Moon Guild, to cooperate deeply with the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce. In this way, the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce finally gained a firm foothold in the competition with a thread. Fortunately, the current market was far from being saturated. Between the two, there was only a healthy competition. Otherwise, it would really put Ouyang Shua in a difficult position. From Ouyang Shua's standpoint, no matter which side, they were both major taxpayers of the territory. He would definitely not side with the Song Clan Chamber of Commerce just because of Song Jia's existence. On this point, Ouyang Shua had a clear understanding. Chapter 597. Third Year of Gaia, 25th day of the first month, World's Edge Courtyard. The first alliance meeting of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas was attended by a total of 19 people. Ouyang Shua jokingly called it the Meeting of 19. Just a year had passed, but the people had changed. Last year, Bright Moon Illuminates the River was still pursuing Red Eagle. But now, the two of them were openly a couple, making many single people envious. Last year, Lin Jing used the divine weapon 7-Star Dragons well to stand out among the adventure-type players. Now that he had obtained the Tai E-Sword's Sword Chi Thunderclap, he was competing with Lin Jing. More importantly, Bloody Romance, who had thrown 1,000,000 gold coins at the auction for Warblood, was the undisputed number one among the adventure-type players. Last year, it was Mulan Lanyue who accompanied Ouyang Shua. Now it was Song Jia. The news of their wedding caused waves in the alliance. Be it Baiwa or Feng Xiaowang, both of them looked at Song Jia strangely. Last year, the Black Mamba, who was specially invited to attend, had long since disappeared along with the Rattlesnake mercenary group. Replacing it was the even more mysterious Black Snake and the terrifying Black Snake Guards. The two brothers, Song Wen and Song Wu, also disappeared. One of them was appointed as the city guard of Zhenhai City, while the other was appointed as the deputy commander of the Liizhou County Guard Division. After the new year, Ouyang Shua was already prepared to promote Song Wu to the commander of the Xuanzhou County Guard Division. Since old people had left, new people would naturally join. As an important member of the Guild Alliance, it was no surprise that Threads of Affection would attend the meeting. What was surprising was that Shadow Fox and Dream Cloud's Devourer appeared in the World's Edge Courtyard. Clearly, Ouyang Shua wanted to use this opportunity to thoroughly integrate Shadow Alliance and Dream House into the Alliance. After going around and around, there were still 19 people attending the meeting. Apart from them, there was also a special existence, Wandering Scholar. In May of the second year of Gaia, Wandering Scholar established the Guild Wilderness Press. Just from the name, one could tell that this was a very special guild. The guild members were mainly reporters and editors. The main business of the Wilderness newspaper was to cooperate with the government. On the official forum, a news column, Daily News, was opened. It was responsible for reporting interesting news and major events in the wilderness. Although the Daily News was paid to read, with Bai Xiaoxing's team's ability to dig up news, it sold like hotcakes. Every day, there would be some good news. The players joked that by subscribing to the Daily News, they could easily understand the world's events without leaving their homes. The reporters of Daily News not only covered the 9 king cities, but also more than 90% of the players' territories in the China server. Shanghai City was no exception. By now, the number of paid subscribers of the Daily News had exceeded 10 million. This meant that 1 out of every 10 players in the China region had subscribed to Daily News. If children were excluded, the ratio would be extremely shocking. Reading the daily news every day had become one of the habits of most players. The price of the daily news could be said to be very affordable. Players only needed to spend 2 copper coins a day to read all the news. Even if it was 10 years, it wouldn't even cost a single gold coin. However, the huge number of paid subscribers still brought huge profits to the Wilderness newspaper. If each person spent 2 copper coins a day, their daily turnover would be 2,000 gold coins. It could be said that they were making a lot of money every day. Other than paid readers, advertising revenue was the main source of income for the daily news. Whether it was a guild or a territory, if they wanted to publish a recruitment order, the daily news was the best choice. If it was published on the forum, other than a huge crocodile like Shanghai City, it would be like a stone in the sea. Other than the recruitment order, the commercial promotion of the territory's specialties, trading information of top-notch items, and the release of clues for chain quests were also popular advertisements published in the daily news. The perfume, Chong Sam, and other products released by the Song Empire have been published in the daily news. To this day, similar news media kept popping up like mushrooms after the rain. Among them, there were regional media, such as the Capital Express, and professional media, such as the Isle of Heroes. All kinds of news media fully satisfied the reading needs of all kinds of players. Even so, the daily news was still the most outstanding. Because of this, the Bai Xiaosheng became famous and even entered the famous celebrity list. Some people joked that if Who Says We was a tycoon among the players, then the Bai Xiaosheng was a tycoon in the media. Just a year ago, the Bai Xiaosheng was just a slightly famous critic on the forum. The sudden rise of the Bai Xiaosheng was due to the unique business model of the daily news. The quiet rise of the news industry allowed countless people to see the business opportunities within. In other words, the sudden rise of the news industry once again impacted the player's inherent concept of the game. To say that the daily news' business model was unique was actually a false proposition. This was because, in reality, this kind of mobile paid reading model had already matured as early as 100 or 200 years ago. The breakthrough of the Bai Xiaosheng was to successfully transplant this business model into the game world. Just like the perfume, Chong Sam, and other products released by the Song Empire, it impacted the player's inherent concept. Between them, there was a common characteristic, which was to operate the game world as a real world and not rigidly adhere to the usual game thinking to maintain the so-called ancient charm of the game. To put it simply, it was back to the theory that Ouyang Shuo had previously mentioned, the player's group transmigration. From Gaia's actions of setting up a column for the daily news and other news media on the forum, it was not difficult to see that Gaia had an encouraging attitude towards this point. Making the game world more realistic was one of Gaia's goals. Even if the future immigration fleet arrived on Hope Planet, the Earth on Lo, a game that transcended the century, could still continue operating and become a part of people's daily lives. After all, the tempering and selection of talents was also a process that lasted for a long time. People with business sense had already drawn inferences from the prosperity of the news industry and sniffed out other business opportunities. On the forum, there was no lack of the embryonic form of various industries, but they lacked a unified platform. For example, online novels. In fact, as early as a year ago, there were players who used the game Earth on Lu as a foundation to create related YY novels. The themes included online games, fantasy, martial arts, history, military, and other major categories. These novels were just written by the authors to pass the time. However, with the support of the official platform, like the Daily News, a specialized online novel reading platform was set up. Then, with professional operations and publicity, it could be immediately realized. After all, in reality, paying to read online novels had long become mainstream. Another example was online dramas and movies. With the filming equipment provided by Gaia, combined with the game's natural elements of exploration, fighting, and war, as long as there was a professional writer and director, it was not difficult to produce very exciting television dramas and movies. Now, the forum was filled with self-entertainment works taken by players. Without a doubt, only a more sophisticated and professional production could have the ability to be realized. All of these were within the scope of entertainment. If one were to jump out of this framework, their imagination would be even greater. For example, online shopping. Ever since the super trading platform was canceled, cross-regional online shopping had become an extravagant hope. However, in reality, online shopping had long become the mainstream consumption of the people. With the help of the forum, an online shopping platform could be set up, and with the help of courier stations, a courier network could be set up. It could easily replicate the real Taobao website in the game. All of these had unlimited business opportunities. As a reincarnated person, Ouyang Shuo obviously knew that all of this had been realized in his previous life. Not to mention this, the future industry had long jumped out of the constraints of the official forum. With the development of the game, there was no limit to the player's entertainment needs. In the years to come, the singers in the real world would be reborn one by one in the game. Ouyang Shuo clearly remembered that in the 4th year of Gaia in his previous life, the top superstar Lin Luo held a classical concert with the main theme of the game in Kyoto Square. The number of audience exceeded 200,000. With just this concert, Lin Luo madly pulled in 500,000 gold coins and was known as the Queen of Money. Not only the stars in reality, with the development of the entertainment industry, the game had also given birth to a new generation of stars. They were either the game's peerless experts or top-notch geniuses. In short, the future of the game world would become more and more integrated with the real world. The reason why Ouyang Shuo did not use his advantage as a reincarnated person to touch these industries was because he adhered to the saying, "Every industry has its own specialization. Don't bite off more than you can chew." It was not a coincidence that Bai Xiaosheng was able to establish the Wilderness newspaper. In reality, he was a senior media person with rich experience in the management of news media. Otherwise, the daily news would not have become so popular. Similarly, for other industries to truly discover the business opportunities, they had to rely on similar professionals. For Ouyang Shuo, instead of being distracted, it was better to wholeheartedly manage the territory. That was his main job. Just like now, even though Bai Xiaosheng was known as a media giant, he still felt flattered by Ouyang Shuo's invitation. In the end, in Only, the overlord was at the top of the food chain. Other than that, there was also the problem of opportunities. Whether it was web novels, web dramas, online shopping, or even celebrity concerts, they all had a premise, which was the stability of the game world. In the age of chaos and war, all of this was nothing more than a pipe dream. In his previous life, it was only in the 4th year of Gaia that such industries gradually began to emerge. Chapter 598. The reason why Ouyang Shuo invited Bai Xiaosheng was because he needed the daily news to help him publicize his plan. For Bai Xiaosheng, being able to interview the mysterious alliance of the League of Mountains and Seas was also a breakthrough. Both sides got what they needed. Apart from that, Ouyang Shuo was also preparing to set up a newspaper in his territory. The name of the newspaper was easy to understand. It was called the Shanghai Daily. Different from the daily news, the Shanghai Daily was targeted at the natives of the territory. They were unable to access the forum, so they could only set up a paper newspaper. In this aspect, Bai Xiaosheng was very experienced. Ouyang Shuo's intention was to use Bai Xiaosheng as a middleman to find a group of newspaper talents. The Horizon Courtyard was personally designed by Sun Xiaoya. It was built as a holiday village in the real world. It was extremely unique. Right in front of the courtyard was a pure white beach. The seawater was clear and blue. It was 10 times purer than the sea in the real world. On the beach, there was a row of deck chairs and umbrellas. The first day of the Alliance meeting was not for discussion. The participants accompanied their families to bask in the sun on the beach, enjoying a very unique spring festival holiday. Ouyang Shuo kept his promise and did not look for any of the members to discuss. 26th of February, in the main hall of the courtyard. The meeting place was completely modeled as a meeting room in the real world. As the Alliance leader and host, Ouyang Shuo sat at the head of the table. On his left were Bai Hua, Feng Qiuhuang, and the other 3 lords. On his right were Xie Xiyun, Ji Yinghu, and the other 3 guild leaders. The other members were not invited. What was special was that the manager of the Four Seas Bank, Meng Jida, sat beside Ouyang Shua. Regarding Gaia's limited-time exchange of achievement points, what is everyone's opinion? At the start of the meeting, Ouyang Shua asked a strange question. The people on both sides looked at each other. What a scam. It's not fair. Speaking of this, Siege Lion's face was filled with displeasure. It's simply tailor-made for Di Chun, Lord Chunshin, and the others. There must be something fishy about it. Dragon-seeking acupuncture was always the advocate of conspiracy theories. The pressure is huge. Baihua also had a helpless look. The strange thing was that it was the lords who spoke. As for the various guild leaders, they did not say a word because they were also the beneficiaries. Ouyang Shua let out a faint smile. The reaction from the crowd was within his expectations. As the saying goes, a crisis is an opportunity. Has anyone thought of using this opportunity to do something? What can I do? We can only watch helplessly as they surpass us. The Siege Lion's resentment was quite big. In reality, this fellow was a *** hole and had a bit of a grudge against the rich. Wui, what do you think? Baihua asked. Shopkeeper Meng, please explain the situation to everyone. Ouyang Shua turned around and gestured to Meng Jida, who was sitting behind him, that it was time to take the stage. The Bank of the Four Seas had branches in various territories, so how could Baihua and the others not be unfamiliar with Meng Jida, the manager of the Bank of the Four Seas? Meng Jida stood up, picked up a stack of documents, and distributed them to the participants. What you have in your hands is how the Bank of the Four Seas will deal with the financial crisis caused by the limited-time exchange of achievement points. The name of the plan is Financial Nuclear Bomb. Meng Jida spoke with fervor and assurance, introducing the Financial Nuclear Bomb plan in detail. The core of the plan was to use the Bank of the Four Seas as a platform to absorb large amounts of idle funds from adventure-type players and use them for the construction of the various territories of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas. Thus, they could instantly turn a disadvantage into an advantage. When the Siege Lion and the others heard this, their eyes lit up and they immediately became spirited. How can we guarantee that players will be able to safely deposit their money in the Bank of the Four Seas? Baihua asked. Right now, what players are most worried about is the depreciation of the gold coins they exchange. Thus, the generous interest returns of the Bank of the Four Seas are incomparably tempting to adventure-type players. This is also the biggest prerequisite for the implementation of the Financial Nuclear Bomb plan, Meng Jida said. There were also banks in the various king cities. The problem was that these banks followed the ancient system. Not only did they not pay interest, but they also charged storage fees. Thus, players would rather let their funds rot in their storage bags than deposit them in the system's banks. Just this alone is far from enough. Meng Jida continued. Any financial institution that wants to absorb deposits must have a solid reputation and a considerable amount of reserves. Shanghai City's unshakable position in the China region is the greatest reputation. The territory's monthly revenue is the best reserve. Even if the banks of ordinary territories had high interest rates, they would not be able to make players feel at ease. This was because the environment of the wilderness was a place where territories fought over each other. Thus, an ordinary territory might be occupied by another territory one day. If that was the case, wouldn't depositing money in such a bank be a win-win situation? Shanghai City was completely different. With Shanghai City's current strength and status, no one believed that it would be occupied. This was the greatest reputation. In fact, even the territories of Di Chun and the other major forces did not have such a strong reputation. Naturally, no one had any objections to this point. Shanghai City's monthly revenue is far from the reserves, right? Feng Qiuhuang questioned. Feng Qiuhuang, who came from a large family, had some understanding of the banking industry. She pointed to the core of the problem. In modern banks, the reserve ratio was around 10, and the lowest couldn't be lower than 6. With the Bank of the Four Seas reputation, it would probably need at least 10 for the players to feel at ease. In other words, for every 100,000 gold coins it absorbed, the Bank of the Four Seas would have to deposit 10,000 gold coins. Shanghai City's monthly revenue, after deducting the military expenses, was only about 100,000 gold coins. This meant that Shanghai City could only absorb 1 million gold coins every month. 1 million gold coins was not enough to support the Shanghai Alliance's growth. For the players, 1 million gold coins was far from enough. Most importantly, the territory's finances would be settled every month, and the players' deposits would peak in the first few months. The most conservative estimate was that the Bank of the Four Seas would have to prepare at least 3 million gold coins in order to gain the players' trust. Evidently, Ouyang Shuo did not have that kind of money. That's right, Meng Jida did not avoid the question. He turned to the right and looked at the head of the guild, who had been silent all this while. He smiled and said, "I believe that the guild leaders can help us solve the problem of reserves. The money in your hands is also devalued, isn't it? What's in it for us if we do this?" Thundersword Chi said bluntly. Of course. Meng Jida was still full of confidence. The best cooperation is a win-win situation. Therefore, the Bank of the Four Seas is willing to take out a portion of its original shares and invite the guilds to invest in the Bank of the Four Seas. In reality, Ouyang Shuo had never thought of taking everything for himself from the start. A conservative estimate of the idle funds in the hands of the players was more than 100 million gold coins. With the Bank of the Four Seas' current appetite, they could only take a small portion of it. That was why inviting allies to invest in the Bank of the Four Seas would tie everyone's interests together and make the cake bigger. Of course, the Bank of the Four Seas shares had to be firmly in Ouyang Shuo's hands. Can you be more specific? As expected, Thundersword and the others were very interested. 1% of the Bank of the Four Seas shares can be exchanged for 200,000 gold coins. Each guild has a limit of 5% shares. Of course, if the number of shareholders increases in the future, the corresponding shares will be further diluted. Thundersword and the others couldn't help but be shocked by Ouyang Shuo's appetite. Based on this, the Bank of the Four Seas value would reach a shocking 20 million gold coins. But after thinking about it, it made sense. If the financial nuclear bomb plan could be successfully implemented, then this value would still be conservative. Snow Rose is willing to invest 1 million gold coins. Before Thundersword could say anything, Xiexiyun had already expressed her position without any hesitation. As expected of Shanghai City's loyal ally, Breeze Pavilion 1 million. Moon shining over the river didn't hesitate either. A thread, 600,000. If it wasn't for the fact that they were expanding their perfume business and were in urgent need of funds, Love Thread would have directly invested 1 million. To the Love Thread knot, Ouyang Shuo was her greatest benefactor. It was Ouyang Shuo who had single-handedly brought a thread on the path of rebirth. Shadow Alliance, 600,000. Dream Pavilion, 600,000. Shadow Fox and Dream Cloud's Swallowtop shouted at the same time. To them, investing in the Bank of the Four Seas was a great opportunity to completely integrate into the Shanghai Alliance. How could they miss it? More importantly, no matter how they looked at it, it was a good deal. The guild would use their idle and devalued funds to invest in the best bank in China. Their future was bright. When Thundersword saw this, she could only smile bitterly. In that moment of shock, she was the last one to express her position. Tingyu Pavilion, 1 million. Meng Jida smiled. Just like that, the Bank of the Four Seas took out 24% of its original shares and raised 8 million gold coins in one go, filling up the initial reserves. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity. Shanghai City will not use a single cent of this money. It will all be converted into reserves for the Bank of the Four Seas. Ouyang Shuo stood out at the right time to express his position. When Thundersword and the others heard this, they felt even more at ease. They were extremely impressed by Ouyang Shuo's generosity. If Ouyang Shuo had a bit of selfishness and used 1 or 2 million gold coins, no one would say anything. Without trust, there would be no standing. Ouyang Shuo wanted to give up small profits to achieve great trust. This way, the alliance would be indestructible. In fact, through the distribution of shares in the Bank of the Four Seas, Shanghai City and the 6 great guilds were in the same boat. And this was Ouyang Shua's biggest gain from this trip. Chapter 599. When Bai Hua and the other lords saw the Bank of the Four Seas sweep in close to 5 million gold coins, it would be a lie to say that they weren't envious. However, even though they looked impressive, they were actually lacking in money. Even if they were asked to take out 200,000 gold coins in one go, it would be difficult. Ouyang Shua naturally wouldn't favor one over the other. Through the Bank of the Four Seas, he would be able to tie the interests of the entire alliance together. He smiled and said, "Lords, please invest 200,000 gold coins in exchange for 1% of the Bank of the Four Seas shares. If you have any problems with cash flow, you can directly convert the 200,000 gold coins into a low-interest loan. How about it?" "Sure," Bai Hua said. In the alliance, all members were equal. Ouyang Shua couldn't directly give out shares of the Bank of the Four Seas to the lords, as that would be unfair to the guilds that invested in it. Next was to discuss how to adjust the structure of the Bank of the Four Seas. The addition of new shareholders meant that the management of the Bank of the Four Seas had to be changed. The most important thing was to set up a board of directors above the current management. As the highest decision-making body of the Bank of the Four Seas, they would be in charge of all important decisions. Ouyang Shua personally took charge of the board of directors. The 11 lords and leaders of the guilds that attended the meeting became members of the board of directors. Feng Xiaohuang and Xie Xian were the representatives of the lords and leaders of the guilds, and they were elected as the vice chairman of the board of directors. Ouyang Shua didn't copy the management system of the banks in the real world. Under the board of directors, there was a board of directors. Under the board of directors was the management. The management, led by Meng Jida, would be in charge of the daily operations of the Bank of the Four Seas. Apart from this, Ouyang Shua also announced that Shanghai City would form an elite force to protect the safety of the various branches of the Bank of the Four Seas. The name of this force would be the Golden Guards. The expenses of the Golden Guards would also be borne by Shanghai City. To develop the Bank of the Four Seas into the most influential bank in China, or even the entire world, we need to have a big picture and a long-term vision. We can't just limit ourselves within the alliance. Whether it's lords or leaders of guilds, as long as they are interested and are willing to be friends with the alliance of mountains and seas, they are welcome to join the Bank of the Four Seas. Ouyang Shua said. Since he had decided to make the Bank of the Four Seas strong, Ouyang Shua didn't want to cause any trouble. After the alliance conference, the Bank of the Four Seas would set up branches in the 9 king cities to absorb the idle funds of adventure-type players. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon cannot suppress a snake in its territory. If the Bank of the Four Seas wanted to establish itself in the imperial city, then it had to obtain the support of the local guilds. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble. The guild's influence, especially in the royal city, could no longer be underestimated. Ouyang Shua had never looked down on anyone in the world. Within the alliance, the 4 royal cities of the capital, Jianye, Luoyang, and Dali, were temporarily safe. However, the other 5 royal cities had no reliable allies. Thus, Ouyang Shua had to expand his circle of friends in Shanghai City. Those who invested in the Bank of the Four Seas next didn't have to be allies of the Mountain and Sea Alliance. As long as they recognized the future of the Bank of the Four Seas, they could become partners. Ouyang Shua was eager to rope in allies. Apart from the above considerations, he also had to consider Di Chun and the others. He believed that once the Bank of the Four Seas was open to the public, Di Chun and the others wouldn't just sit back and watch. At the very least, Lord Chunshin's Huitong Money House was a formidable opponent of the Four Seas Money House. In terms of operating ability, Lord Chunshin and the others had plenty of professionals under them. In terms of reserves, the Yanhuang Alliance wasn't inferior at all. In terms of credibility, they were only slightly inferior to Shanghai City. If the Bank of the Four Seas couldn't jump out of the fence of the Mountain and Sea Alliance, they would definitely lose this competition. Xuanzhou's Flowing Light Pavilion. I can give it a try, Bai Hua said. Before entering Earth, Bai Hua was one of the representatives of the professional gaming circle and had a wide range of friends. The owner of the Flowing Light Pavilion was old and could be considered an old friend of hers. Bai Hua didn't make any promises, but it was due to her strict personality. Great! Ouyang Shuo was overjoyed. Chengdu's Lao Junguan. I can also give it a try. The one who spoke was Xie Siyun. Like Bai Hua, Xie Siyun was also one of the top figures in the professional gaming circle. In terms of influence, how could she be any weaker than Bai Hua? Great! Ouyang Shuo was extremely excited. If everything went smoothly, 6 of the top 10 guilds would have joined the Bank of the Four Seas. The biggest weakness of Di Chun and the others was the lack of connections among the guild players. Before this, they were all complete noobs. The remaining guilds, Unhindered Sword, 18 Steeds of Swallow and Cloud, and Imperial Secret Service, were all loyal to the Yanhuang Alliance. Even if they wanted to invest in the Bank of the Four Seas, Ouyang Shuo wouldn't be willing. In the end, the only one left was the neutral Bloodlust Mercenary Group. As the #1 guild in the China server, the Bloodlust Mercenary Group had the confidence to stay out of it. Whether it was Ouyang Shuo's goodwill or Di Chin's olive branch, Bloody Romance tactfully rejected them. But this time, Ouyang Shuo didn't plan to let him go. I'm also confident that I can convince Bloody Romance to join the Bloodlust Mercenary Group. Ouyang Shuo smiled and announced a shocking piece of news. Really, Xie Siyun and the others were shocked. Everyone knew that Bloody Romance was famous for his bad temper. Once he decided on something, he would never change his mind. I never lie, Ouyang Shuo said. Seeing this, the others didn't ask any further. Bai Hua and the others had been in contact with Ouyang Shuo for a long time, and they could faintly feel that Ouyang Shuo was holding some trump card that others didn't know about. For example, until now, Xie Siyun still couldn't understand how Ouyang Shuo knew about the Rattlesnake Mercenary Group and how he quietly digested the entire mercenary group. Wui is shrouded in a layer of fog. These were the exact words Bai Hua had said at a gathering. Other than the guilds, should we consider pulling some lords into the Bank of the Four Seas? Feng Qiuhuang asked. The first ones that came to her mind were the members of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas, Phoenix Alliance. One had to admit that Feng Qiuhuang's strategic vision was indeed stronger. Of course, Ouyang Shuo's answer was very straightforward. In reality, once the Bank of the Four Seas started operating, the amount of savings would be extremely shocking, at least in the tens of millions. With just the 6 territories of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas, it wouldn't be enough. One had to know that these savings would have to pay interest. If they were to just leave in the bank's vault, it would be a huge waste, and it would be a burden to Shanghai City. Therefore, a successful bank could continuously absorb savings and, at the same time, provide loans of the same amount at a higher interest rate. This way, the bank would be able to truly profit from the difference between the two. The territories that were previously on good terms with us, such as Sparkle's Qingyun County and Chunhang's Gray Castle, will be our first targets. Other than that, the sub-guilds that you've set up in your area can also be included in the Bank of the Four Seas list of lending targets. Ouyang Shuo explained. Usually, the territories that needed loans were the civilian players. In this round of achievement points exchange, they were the real victims. One could imagine that once the Bank of the Four Seas extended a helping hand to these territories, it would definitely gain their recognition. As Ouyang Shuo's plan slowly surfaced, Bai Hua couldn't help but sigh, Wui, you're playing a big game of chess. Not me, it's us, Ouyang Shuo corrected. The entire conference room was filled with carefree laughter. At this moment, everyone was more confident in the future of the Shanghai Alliance. The haze that Gaia had accumulated over the past 2 years seemed to have been swept away. It was foreseeable that once the Bank of the Four Seas started operating and absorbed a huge amount of funds, the territories would no longer have to worry about low-interest loans. With the support of strong funds, the territories would definitely rise to new heights in Gaia in the next 3 years. And this was only one of Ouyang Shuo's goals. Ouyang Shuo's biggest goal was not this. Just as Bai Hua had said, Ouyang Shuo used the Bank of the Four Seas as a hub to play a big game of chess. However, the situation of this game of chess far exceeded the understanding of Bai Hua and the others. As the world's #1 feudal lord, Ouyang Shual had long set his sights on 10 years in the future. To the Alliance, Ouyang Shual's rise in the game was undoubtedly an anomaly. To Gaia, it was naturally happy to see this happen. But to the upper echelons of the Federation, not everyone would welcome a dark horse like Ouyang Shual. Just like Di Chan and the others, the families behind them did not have a good impression of Ouyang Shual. After all, Gaia was like a god in the game, but when it came to Hope Planet, the real power was still in the hands of the Federation. Therefore, Ouyang Shual could not foresee that once his achievements far exceeded the Federation's tolerance, some people in the Federation would play tricks and kick him out. The current Ouyang Shual was extremely powerless in this regard. Therefore, as someone who had been reborn, he had to plan ahead. The Bank of the Four Seas was undoubtedly an opportunity. In other words, Gaia's limited time exchange of achievement points had given Ouyang Shual a glimmer of an opportunity. This was something that Bai Hua and the others would never have thought of. Ouyang Shual's ultimate goal was to use the Bank of the Four Seas to absorb funds and tie the interests of countless adventurer players and feudal lord players to Shanghai City. Both would prosper together, and both would suffer together. If something happened to Shanghai City, more than half of the players in the China server would suffer, and this was something that the Federation could not afford. Only in this way would the Alliance be afraid of Ouyang Shual, and they wouldn't dare easily play some shameful tricks. As for open competition, Ouyang Shual was never afraid. Chapter 600. After settling the matters of the Bank of the Four Seas, the Mountain and Sea Conference was more than half done. Next would be the cooperation between the various clans. Ouyang Shual's main focus was Bai Hua. Their territories were already bordering each other's. Gaia's 3-year plan had to be explained to each other. Ouyang Shual's ultimate goal was to integrate Lingxi City into Shanghai City's system in a reasonable manner. Bai Hua actually didn't have much of a choice. Mu Lanyue's promotion to Zhan and county governor was Ouyang Shual's strongest signal. Integrating into Shanghai City would only lead to great things. In terms of power, Mu Lanyue wasn't any weaker than Siege Lion and the others. Of course, this would only be decided in the second half of the year. During the conference, Ouyang Shual had already informed his allies about Shanghai City's plans for the first half of the year, as well as the upcoming voyage. This also meant that Ouyang Shual might not have the time to attend to the affairs of the Alliance in the first half of the 3rd year. Feng Xiaohuang and the others had to make an accurate assessment of this. Ouyang Shual's underlying meaning was that if they wanted to cause trouble, they had to be confident that they could handle it without Shanghai City support. Otherwise, no one would come to the rescue. The next day, good news came one after another. Bai Hua and Xiexiyun's invitations, whether it was the pavilion master of the Flowing Light Pavilion, Old June, or the temple master of the Lao Jun Temple, Taoist priest Green Bull, they all responded positively. The two accepted the invitation and came to the World's Edge courtyard as guests. That afternoon, the matter of the Bank of the Four Seas was finalized. Flowing Light Pavilion and Elder Temple would each invest 600,000 gold coins and own 3% of the Bank of the Four Seas shares. At the same time, the two guilds would also be responsible for guarding the Bank of the Four Seas in Xuanzhou and Chengdu. Ouyang Shual struck while the iron was hot and took the opportunity to make a trip to Xianyang. The Bloody Mercenary Group's headquarters was in Xianyang. With Ouyang Shual's personal visit, even the #1 guild in the China region didn't dare to slight him. What was strange was that Ouyang Shual only stayed in the group for less than 2 hours before leaving in a hurry. When he left, he had already obtained 1,000,000 gold coins as investment. Bloody Romance was indeed generous and decisive. Once he made a decision, he didn't hesitate at all. Ouyang Shual's secret to convincing Bloody Romance was actually very simple. During the last auction, Bloody Romance had won the War Blood Divine equipment set, but it only consisted of the chest plate and boots. It would be incredibly difficult to collect a complete set. Coincidentally, the player who obtained the core part of the War Blood set, Crimson Bloodsword, had posted his mission process on the forum. The reward that Ouyang Shual had given Bloody Romance was a quest clue for the Crimson Bloodsword. To Bloody Romance, this clue was priceless. It was the equivalent of Ouyang Shua doing him a huge favor. Although Crimson Romance had a bad temper, he was still a passionate and loyal man. Without any hesitation, he agreed to Ouyang Shua's request. However, the baleful, bloody mercenary group's neutral position wouldn't change. Ouyang Shua didn't insist. He believed that with this opportunity, the two of them would be able to cooperate more. After returning to the Tianya courtyard, Ouyang Shua informed by Xiaosheng about the financing plan of the Bank of the Four Seas selectively and publicized it on the platform of the Daily News. Receiving such explosive news, Bai Xiaosheng was naturally very excited. He felt that this trip was worth it. The rest of the Alliance Conference was a complete vacation. Those who had matters to attend to left first. Those who had nothing to attend to could stay until New Year's Eve. In fact, Yun and the others even intended to spend the new year in the Tianya courtyard. After all, as the leaders of the guilds, they didn't need to hold any sacrificial ceremonies during the new year. Having received the most explosive news, Bai Xiaosheng tactfully said goodbye and left. The next day, January 29th, on the front page of the Daily News, a piece of news was published. Snow Rose, Breeze Pavilion, Baleful Blood Mercenary Group, and the other 4 guilds, as well as the 5 territories of Lingxi City and Fallen Phoenix City, all invested in the Bank of the Four Seas. The Bank of the Four Seas officially started operations. The initial reserve was as high as 6 million gold coins. The world was shocked when the news came out. The Mountain Sea Alliance, especially the reputation of Mountain Sea City, the huge investment from the 9 top guilds, and a reserve of 6 million gold coins, made the Bank of the Four Seas unstoppable. In a short period of time, there was an endless stream of inquiries about when the Bank of the Four Seas would open for business. Ouyang Shua didn't let the players wait for long. In fact, the Bank of the Four Seas branch in the 9 king cities had long been ready under Meng Jida's management. As soon as the funds were in place, they could open for business. Yun and the other investors didn't hesitate either. On the 28th, the 6 million gold coins had been deposited into the Bank of the Four Seas treasury. Ouyang Shua even took a picture of the treasury and sent it to Bai Xiaosheng. In the press release, the mountain of gold coins had completely blinded the eyes of the players in the China server. As such, Ouyang Shua specially ordered the city guards to strengthen the security of the treasury. He couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't be tempted by such a huge amount of wealth. On the afternoon of the 29th, the Bank of the Four Seas in the 9 king cities was unveiled and officially opened for business. Thunder Sword, Blood Romance, and other leaders of the guilds all appeared in the king cities to support the opening of the Bank of the Four Seas. The scene was overcrowded, and it was an unprecedented grand occasion. The players who rushed to the Bank of the Four Seas to deposit money filled the entire street. Because the Golden Guards were still in the process of being formed, Ouyang Shua could only helplessly send the Imperial Guards. Every king city arranged for 1,000 Imperial Guards to be responsible for maintaining the scene. As for the bank's treasury, it was directly guarded by the Divine Martial Guards. As for Ouyang Shua, he stayed in the World's Edge courtyard and commanded remotely. That night, the first batch of deposits was tabulated. After reading the report, Ouyang Shua was dumbfounded. In just one afternoon, the 9 branches had taken in a total of 6 million gold coins. When Bai Hua and the others received the news, they all cheered. This also marked the beginning of the Bank of the Four Seas' rise. The good news kept coming, and Bai Hua and the others couldn't sit still anymore. They all bid farewell and left. They had 2 tasks. The first was to evaluate the territory's loan limit. The Bank of the Four Seas' low-interest loans didn't mean that the more the better. If the territory couldn't make use of the loans to generate higher profits, it would become a huge burden on the territory's finances. Therefore, even if Bai Hua and the others had been promoted to directors of the Bank of the Four Seas, they still had to go through a strict approval process if they wanted to obtain a large loan. The first requirement was to submit a professional budget for the territory. The management team, led by Meng Jida, would review the budget and conduct an on-site inspection to confirm that the territory had the ability to repay the loan. Only then would they grant the loan. The bank would also set strict restrictions on the use of the loan. This was to prevent the territories from going overboard. Ouyang Shua didn't want to see any territory go bankrupt because they couldn't repay the loan. With the status of the alliance of mountains and seas in China, there was no need to worry. No one would have the guts to renege on the Bank of the Four Seas. Any loan had to have a mortgage. Moreover, the mortgage contract was certified by Gaia, so it was legal. Therefore, even if Di Chun and the others tried to secretly apply for a loan from the Bank of the Four Seas through a third party, they wouldn't be able to play any tricks. Of course, at this stage, they didn't have the opportunity to do so. The second task for Bai Hua and the others was to conduct a comprehensive evaluation of their second-ranked allies. Only true allies could get a loan from the Bank of the Four Seas. Ordinary allies were temporarily out of the question. Therefore, it was basically impossible for Di Chun and the others to cause trouble. Gaia Year 3, 30th of January, 28th of the 12th lunar month. In 2 days, it will be the most important New Year's Eve of the year for the people of China. Strangely, on this day, a large number of adventure-type players didn't think about buying New Year's goods. Instead, they flocked to the Bank of the Four Seas in the capital. To the players, depositing the money they had painstakingly exchanged into the bank as soon as possible was the most important thing. Otherwise, the value of the gold coins in their storage bags would only depreciate day by day. How could the smart China people fail to solve this problem? Compared to yesterday afternoon, the number of players coming to the bank to deposit money had doubled due to word of mouth. Ouyang Shua was both happy and worried when he heard the news. He had no choice but to instruct the newly appointed Hua, Xubing, to increase the number of people in the capital. The commander of the Imperial Guards would never have thought that his first task after taking office would be to maintain the security of the scene. No one would believe him if he said it out loud. However, Hua Xubing didn't dare to disobey the Marquis's order. In one day, the Bank of the Four Seas had once again swept away 1,500 gold coins. Such a result made Lord Chunshin and the others jealous. They didn't expect that Shanghai City would play such a trick on New Year's Eve. The lords in the wilderness, on the other hand, had a different attitude. Especially the commoner lords, they began to think of ways to establish a relationship with the members of the Shanghai Alliance. Their goal was naturally to obtain a loan. Ouyang Shua's attitude toward this was ambiguous. He neither agreed nor refused. The unified reply was that the new year was coming and they would discuss it after the new year. Ouyang Shua did this to whet the appetite of these lords. As the saying went, only those who couldn't get it would know how to cherish it. Those who got it easily often didn't know how to cherish it. If these lords didn't deeply understand the value of the loan, how could they be willing to agree to the series of additional conditions of the Bank of the Four Seas? Ouyang Shua spread the word that territories that wanted to apply for loans had to be open to the Bank of the Four Seas. He allowed the Bank of the Four Seas to open branches in the territory and make related investments in the territory. These conditions were much harsher than the treatment given to the territories of allies like Dragon Search City. The Bank of the Four Seas was becoming an important tool for Ouyang Shua to exert influence in the wilderness. Chapter 601. Jingchu Province, Danyang City. The sudden rise of the Bank of the Four Seas brought Di Chun and the others together again. Really, they don't even let us have peace during the new year. Someone couldn't help but grumble. It was rare that all 6 members of the Yan Huang Alliance were present. Everyone, let's talk. How should we deal with the operation against the Bank of the Four Seas? As the host, Lord Chunshin took on the role of moderator. Seeing this, Di Chun couldn't help but frown, but he didn't say anything. The current situation required the alliance to work together. Di Chun didn't want to start a fight with Lord Chunshin. It had to be said that Di Chun's growth was shocking. What should we do? In my opinion, we should just hire some people to destroy those banks. Military Kill Ripper said, gritting his teeth. In the Battle of Mo Bay, Military Kill Ripper was in a sorry state. He hated Ouyang Shua to the core. Don't be silly. Di Chun frowned. The Bank of the Four Seas branch in the capital is under the protection of the Imperial Court and is guarded by the army. Don't be stained with blood before you can accomplish anything. Military Kill Ripper didn't say anything. He knew that what he said was just out of anger. After the Battle of Mo Bay, Military Kill Ripper's position in the alliance was probably even lower than Wandering Juan's. In fact, the members of Military Kill Ripper's family were already dissatisfied with him as their representative. Because of this, Military Kill Ripper didn't dare to talk back to Di Chun. If his family wanted to stabilize their position in the game, they still needed the support of Di Chun's family. The rise of the Bank of the Four Seas is unstoppable. What we need to do now is to take action and absorb the idle funds of adventure-type players. We can't let the alliance of mountains and seas monopolize everything. Di Chun decided. Good. Wolf Warrior was the first to express his support. In this aspect, the Huitong Bank is willing to help. Lord Chunshin finally found an opportunity and said with a smile. In reality, when he found out that the Bank of the Four Seas was making a move, Lord Chunshin was first surprised, then overjoyed. He had already realized that this was an opportunity to influence the alliance. Among the territories of the Yin-Huang Alliance, the Huitong Bank in Danyang City was the largest and had the most professionals. It was indeed the best choice to oppose the Bank of the Four Seas. Although Di Chun wasn't happy, he didn't know how to refute. I agree. Unexpectedly, Xiongba was the first to express his support for Lord Chunshin. Hearing this, Di Chun's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt. Even Battle Wolf glanced at Xiongba faintly. On the other hand, Xiongba's expression remained calm after saying these words, as if he had no idea what kind of shocking waves his actions would cause in the alliance. Since when did Xiongba get back together with Lord Chunshin? This was the doubt in Di Chun and the others' hearts. Involuntarily, they recalled the time when the 6 hegemons of Handan City were still around. It was at that time, under the urging of Xiongba, that Lord Chunshin resolutely broke away from the 6 hegemons of Handan and started his own business. The world was ever-changing. After rebuilding the Yin-Huang Alliance, because of the conflict of interests, the two of them had gradually drifted apart. In fact, because of Xiongba's protection of Piaolinghuan, the two of them had already become enemies. Who would have thought that Xiongba was indeed a formidable person? Everything was based on benefits. As long as he felt that working with Lord Chunshin would bring him benefits, Xiongba did not mind putting down the grudges between the two of them and working together again. After a period of ups and downs, the current Lord Chunshin was filled with mixed feelings and gradually matured. The two of them working together again naturally came to fruition. With Xiongba expressing his stance, Di Chun knew that there was no way to continue and could only admit defeat. I also agree. Lord Chunshin smiled slightly. Since that is the case, then let's talk about the specific distribution of shares. Battle Wolf said, according to the information I received, 1% of the shares of the Bank of the Four Seas is worth 200,000 gold coins. Since we want to compete with the Bank of the Four Seas, we naturally cannot lower our value. I think we should use this as the benchmark. Lord Chunshin said, no. Di Chun, Battle Wolf, and the others did not even think and directly refused. Why not? Lord Chunshin did not give in. The Bank of the Four Seas has its own unique reasons for being able to obtain such a valuation. Di Chun was somewhat amused by Lord Chunshin's appetite. First, in terms of scale, the Bank of the Four Seas has long-established branches in Lingxi City and other territories. It is the #1 bank in China. From start to finish, Shanghai City has invested no less than 1 million gold coins into the Bank of the Four Seas. In addition, Shanghai City's monthly net financial income is regularly invested into the Bank of the Four Seas. Just based on this, can the Bank of the Four Seas do it? According to what I know, the Bank of the Four Seas only serves Danyang City, right? Don't even talk about injecting capital into it. The savings at the Bank of the Four Seas has already been sucked dry by Danyang City. Right now, the Bank of the Four Seas is just an empty shell. Di Chun continued. Lord Chunshin was somewhat angered by what he said. In his heart, he was even more bewildered. Lord Chunshin did not expect that Di Chun would have such a thorough understanding of the Bank of the Four Seas. The legendary intelligence organization Emperor Wind was indeed extraordinary. Second, Di Chun did not care and continued. The Bank of the Four Seas is able to gain the recognition of adventure-type players, mainly because of the supreme reputation that Shanghai City has established. Therefore, the leaders of guilds like Bloody Romance are willing to fork out money. If the Bank of the Four Seas wants to compete with the Bank of the Four Seas, it must borrow the reputation and resources of the entire Yanhuang Alliance. The two cannot be mentioned in the same breath. Brother Di Chun is right. This time, Warwolf stood firmly on Di Chun's side. Lord Chunshin's appetite was a little too big. Then how much do you think it is worth? Lord Chunshin was a businessman, and bargaining was practically his instinct. He did not expect that his proposal would be accepted. If he said that, it would only increase the value of the Bank of the Four Seas. 50,000 gold coins, and Danyang City cannot have controlling stake. Di Chun threw out his proposal. Are you joking? Lord Chunshin was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, and suddenly jumped up. I am very serious. Di Chun was rather calm. Since that is the case, then we might as well break up. 50,000 gold coins? Are you trying to get rid of a beggar? Lord Chunshin's attitude did not soften in the slightest. Against the Bank of the Four Seas, it is not necessary to have the Bank of the Four Seas. Di Chun said unhurriedly. This was the biggest bargaining chip in Di Chun's hand. Up to now, the situation had basically become a confrontation between Di Chun and Lord Chunshin. Warwolf and the others clearly saw Di Chun as the leader. Even Xiong Ba did not want to see Lord Chunshin make an exorbitant demand and tactfully maintained his silence. So what? The Bank of the Four Seas is the blood and sweat of our entire family. You can't just not reap what you sow, can you? Lord Chunshin saw that direct confrontation was not going to work, so he played the emotional card. Danyang City must hand over the controlling stake. As for the valuation, I can add another 10,000 gold coins. This is the limit of what I can do. Do you agree or not? Just give me a straightforward answer. Di Chun forced Lord Chunshin into a corner. Warwolf and the others did not say a word. At this time, tacit consent meant agreement. Seeing this, Lord Chunshin could only helplessly choose to accept. In the end, he still said unwillingly, hand over the controlling stake, and Danyang City must also be the largest shareholder. Otherwise, I will not be able to answer to my family. Fine. Increase the valuation by another 20,000 gold coins. Lord Chunshin still did not give up. Don't push your luck. Di Chun's patience was about to run out. As a descendant of an imperial family, Di Chun did not like this kind of haggling in the marketplace. Then add another 10,000. This is also my bottom line. Lord Chunshin was about to act shamelessly. Different from Di Chun, businessmen were sometimes very willing to put down their pride for a bit of profit. Seeing this, Di Chun exchanged a look with Warwolf and the others, and said helplessly, Fine, then 1%. The valuation is 70,000 gold coins. There is only one condition. The capital must be converted into the bank's reserves. That is natural. Lord Chunshin was tactful. After a battle of words, both sides finally reached an agreement. Should we learn from the Bank of the Four Seas and pull in other guilds to invest? Warwolf asked. Yes, but their valuation must be 200,000 gold coins per point. Lord Chunshin was unequivocal. This time, Di Chun and the others were astonishingly unanimous. They did not object. To these aristocratic families, if they did not play some tricks, how could they show off their abilities? As for how to keep it a secret and not let the leaders of the guilds find out, the difference in valuation between the two was like heaven and earth. They naturally had their ways. Next was the discussion of the specific shares. The six lords naturally could not be divided equally. Within the alliance, there was a difference between high and low shares. Lord Chunshin, as the owner of Huitong Bank, had 18 shares, making him the largest shareholder. Di Chun had 15 shares. Warwolf and Tyrant each had 12 shares. Military Killbreaker and Wandering Huan each had 10 shares. The remaining 23 shares were reserved for the guilds that cooperated with Yanhuang Alliance. In this way, Huitong Bank could raise 73 million gold coins, 3 million more than the 6 million gold coins of the Bank of the Four Seas. Naturally, this was because Lord Chunxin had contributed more than 80% of the shares. One had to know that Shanghai City had 60% of the shares in the Bank of the Four Seas and had absolute control. The next day, Huitong Bank announced through the Daily News that it was officially open for business. The reserve of the bank was also exaggerated to 10 million gold coins. As such, it attracted the interest of some players. The overall credibility of the Yan-Huang alliance made the players feel more at ease. However, Huitong Bank had to wait until after the new year to establish a branch in the 9 king cities. Lord Chunxin and the rest did not plan ahead like Ouyang Shaw. The two banks would definitely have a fierce battle after the new year. On New Year's Eve, Ouyang Shaw ended his vacation and returned to Shanghai City. Towards Huitong Bank's actions, Ouyang Shaw's attitude was unexpectedly straightforward. Let it come. This was what Ouyang Shaw said to Xie Yun and the rest. It was time for the two alliances to have a head-on clash in the wilderness. Ouyang Shaw's domineering attitude was undoubtedly very inspiring. The specific matters of the Bank of the Four Seas would be handled by Meng Jida. After the new year, Meng Jida also planned to invite the top talents of the financial circle in China to work in the Bank of the Four Seas. Modernizing operations and recruiting talents were the Bank of the Four Seas philosophy. Feng Xiaohuang and the rest also had the authority to recommend some financial talents to work in the Bank of the Four Seas. Ouyang Shaw did not intend to completely control the Bank of the Four Seas. If he wanted to make the cake bigger, he had to have the heart to eat the cake. How could the current Ouyang Shaw be compared to the cautious little lord who had just been reborn be compared to him? Around him, with him as the core, he had already formed a powerful alliance of interests. Whether it was historical talents like Xiao He or the other lords, they were all pawns in Ouyang Shaw's hands. At this point, Ouyang Shaw had a slight understanding of his position. Only by binding the people he needed to his chariot and forming a common interest system could he advance or retreat in the game against the Yan-Huang alliance and other external forces. Each force was like a chess piece on the chessboard. Only by uniting them could he calmly lay out his plans and charge forward in the battle. Because of this, Di Chun and the rest had to be careful when they wanted to deal with the Bank of the Four Seas. As soon as he returned, Ouyang Shaw issued a decree to reward all the generals. Since the establishment of the military rank system, Ouyang Shaw should have rewarded all the generals after the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom War. However, after the war, the army was reorganized and had no time to care about this matter. Just as the army was about to be reorganized, the Battle of Mabe came, which delayed it until now. Ouyang Shaw wanted to make good on his promise before the new year. Among the generals, Bai Qi held the rank of general and was the #1 general in the army. Behind him, Han Xin, Sun Bin, and Hua Zubing all held the rank of general. Other than the 4 first-grade generals, there were 3 third-grade generals. The second-grade general position was temporarily vacant. The decree promoted Shi Wansui, the commander of the Dragon Stallion Army's 2nd Corps, to the Anxi General Zhang Han, the commander of the Leopard Army's 2nd Corps, to the Anxi General, and Di Qing, the commander of the Brave Tiger Army's 2nd Corps, to the Anong General. Of the 4 generals, only the Annan General position was temporarily vacant. Below there was a batch of 4th-grade generals. Under the imperial edict, he promoted Eli, Fan Lihua, Luo Shixin, and Wei Zhang, for great generals who had rendered meritorious service, to be promoted to Eastern, Southern, Western, and Northern 4 commanders. Mu Ging, Chao Yu, Bailey Shi, and the other generals were also promoted to 4th-grade generals. Below there was a batch of 5th-grade generals. Unsurprisingly, all the generals who held the position of division commander were promoted to 5th-grade generals. Even the 2 generals who had just joined the army, Zhao Bonu and Zhao Shi, were promoted. In addition to the rank of general, the military administration also evaluated and promoted the soldiers according to their contributions since the establishment of the territorial army. A large number of veterans received the highest rank that their positions could attain. In addition to the promotion, Ouyang Shua also ordered the entire army to receive an extra month's pay as a reward for their contributions to the territory. Even the surrendered soldiers of the Taiping army received the same treatment. In a short time, the morale of the army was greatly stabilized. Ouyang Shua's prestige in the army reached a new peak. Chapter 602. P.S. From tomorrow onwards, we will return to our normal schedule, 12 a.m., 6 p.m. Apologies. It was New Year's Eve again. It was familiar, yet strange. The Nian Beast event was still a regular program, but Ouyang Shua was not interested in it. The red envelope snatching event reached a new peak. As expected, Xing Binger, the god-level lucky star, had a new reward. She drew a rare accessory, which made everyone envious. Star Moon Pendant, Dark Gold. Increased cultivation speed by 25, increased true origin energy density by 5. Even Ouyang Shua was a little jealous when he saw it. There was something different amidst the liveliness. The number of talents in Shanghai City was growing. As the Spring Festival approached, the civil and military officials began to return to Shanghai City. Firstly, it was to continue the tradition of Shanghai City and celebrate the Spring Festival with the marquee. Secondly, it was for the marquee upcoming wedding. Since that was the case, there was no reason for them to come empty-handed. Other than Pei Ju, who was still stationed at the Withered Fortress, the other 7 county governors were all present. They brought the specialties of each county, such as the strange stones from Zhaoqing County and the sandalwood from Liizhou County. Ouyang Shua had already said that the officials could not compete with each other during the wedding, nor could they purposely search for rare treasures from the people to encourage extravagance. Governing the territory well was the best gift. After the banquet ended, the civil and military officials returned to their mansions to keep watch with their families. Ever since the release of the Rise of the Noble Families expansion pack, the wilderness had slowly changed. Most importantly, the families of historical figures had been quietly refreshed to their side. Now, Xiao He, Du Ruhui, Luo Shixin, and the other civil and military officials were no longer alone. There was a large family in their mansions. It was inevitable that Xiao He and the others would be involved in more conflicts of interest, be it actively or passively. At the same time, because of the existence of their families, these famous officials and military officials were more humane than before. The wilderness was becoming more and more real. Countless people, countless interests were intertwined in Shanghai City. Even Ouyang Shua, the Lord, gradually felt that while this magnificent city was becoming more and more prosperous, it was also becoming more and more unfamiliar. Some people say that when a person stands high enough, looking down from above, although he can see the canopy of the tree, everything under the canopy has already become blurred. Ouyang Shua was currently standing at such a height, overlooking the entire territory while sitting on the defense of Royal City. Everywhere he looked, there was only prosperity. When he tried to see them clearly, he could only see blurry and unfamiliar faces. The ancients did not deceive them when they said that they were alone. According to the ancient customs, on the eve of the wedding, Song Jia would be brought to the Song residence to stay. She would only be able to see her on the day of the wedding. Only Bing, and Qing accompanied Ouyang Shua. Even Yingyu had returned to her clan for the new year because the entire Chui clan had moved to Shanghai City. The Southern Border Protectorate headquarters seemed to be bustling with activity, but Ouyang Shua felt that it was abnormally cold and cheerless. In the end, it's still brother and sister? Ouyang Shua leaned against the railing and gazed into the night sky by himself, and there was an indescribable loneliness in his eyes. At this moment, Ouyang Shua suddenly felt a trace of fear. He was afraid of the passing of time. Time passed year after year. Ouyang Shua grew older and older, but Bing grew older and older. He was truly fearful of the arrival of that day. When the little girl grew up and became a beautiful young lady, would she still be so dependent on her older brother? Perhaps when that time came, The only ones by Ouyang Shua's side would be the ice-cold throne and the equally ice-cold Scarlet Knight sword. As if sensing Ouyang Shua's thoughts, a thought suddenly entered Ouyang Shua's mind. Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. With a flash of black light, the sky demon spear that had been sleeping for more than 3 months suddenly appeared in his hand. The sky demon spear became even darker and more profound. Upon closer inspection, there was a mystical charm that tempted one to look at the spear. Ouyang Shua immediately looked at the sky demon spear's attributes. Name: Sky Demon Spear, high-quality divine armament. Hardness: 90. Sharpness: 88. Toughness: 75. Characteristics: blood-devouring, has a certain chance of devouring the enemy's blood essence to promote the evolution of the weapon. Ultimate skill: Tyrant's Blood, infuses the demon god's domineering aura and attacks with all its might. With an overbearing momentum, it moves forward with an indomitable will. Those hit by will die. Cooldown time: 1 month. Evaluation: forged from extraterrestrial divine stones, nourished by the demon god's blood essence and the demon god's soul, it has mutated and become a divine weapon. Drip blood to recognize the owner. Cannot be traded, cannot be dropped, and can evolve again. After completely devouring and digesting the demon god's soul, the sky demon spear had evolved again. Its 3-dimensional attributes had improved a lot. Not only that, but it had also derived a killer skill. Those hit by it will die. Looking at the description, it was extremely frightening. With 5 years of adventuring experience in his previous life, Ouyang Shua was relatively calm about this. The so-called "those hit by it will die" was not absolute. As long as the other party was strong enough or had other means, they could escape. Otherwise, with just this move, Ouyang Shua would be invincible in the world. In addition, the 1-month cooldown period was also a very troublesome existence. However, there was one point that attracted Ouyang Shua's attention. This was the first time that Ouyang Shua had seen a high-quality divine armament level description. Even the Scarlet Knight sword that was infused with the soul of the Scarlet Dragon didn't have such a description. From this, it could be seen that even among the divine armaments, the Sky Demon Spear was a top-notch existence. Long time no see, old friend. Ouyang Shua held the Sky Demon Spear and muttered to himself. Seeing this, waves of black light flashed on the surface of the Sky Demon Spear. Ha, good. Ouyang Shua seemed to understand and was in a good mood. Carrying the Sky Demon Spear, he walked into the courtyard and practiced the Yang family spear technique. The bright moon hung high in the sky. The night was like water. In the pitch-black night sky, fireworks were everywhere, dazzling and dazzling. In Shanghai City, it was noisy. The sound of firecrackers could be heard, and people were talking. In the courtyard, it was silent. Ouyang Shua held the Sky Demon Spear and moved back and forth. From time to time, there was a rustling sound. In his hand, the Sky Demon Spear seemed to have a mind of its own. Unconsciously, the Yang family's spear technique, the 8 Extremes Fist, and the halberd technique that he had practiced in his previous life suddenly merged into one at this moment. There was no distinction between them. But Ouyang Shua seemed to be unaware of it. He continued to dance. The more he moved, the more rapid the rustling sound became. After an hour, Ouyang Shua stopped. He concentrated and stood alone. A trace of a smile flashed on the corner of his mouth. A series of system notifications sounded in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations to player not have clothes. You have entered the state of enlightenment and reached the realm of one with the spear. You have mastered all your martial arts and formed a unique spear technique. Please name the spear technique. Sky Demon Spear Technique. Ouyang Shua did not hesitate. This spear technique could only be used by the Sky Demon Spear. There was no doubt that the newly born Sky Demon Spear technique was a top-notch god-level technique. After advancing, Ouyang Shua's proficiency in the spear technique did not increase. Instead, it fell to the 4th stage, familiar realm. Just at this moment, another series of system notifications sounded. System notification. Congratulations to player not have clothes. You have achieved great success in the spear technique. You have officially become a spear master. Reward: 2,000 achievement points, 50,000 reputation points. Unknowingly, Ouyang Shua's spear technique had improved greatly. Unfortunately, Ouyang Shua was not the first spear master in the wilderness. Otherwise, Shanghai City would have long obtained the title of home of the spear technique. A night of dancing fish and dragons. The lively New Year's Eve passed in the blink of an eye. On the first day of the new year, there was the heaven offering ceremony. This year's heaven offering ceremony of Shanghai City was even bigger, grander, and more complicated. It only came to an end in the afternoon. From the afternoon onwards, it was time for Ouyang Shua's wedding. The entire Shanghai City had long been decorated. Red lanterns, symbolizing festivity, were hung all over the streets and alleys. On the crisscrossing main roads, there was a bell tower or drum tower at every corner. And on every bell and drum tower, there was already a stage set up. The entire city's stage had been booked by the protectorate of the southern border. The sounds of rehearsals could be heard intermittently from the various stages. It was extremely lively. All the people in the city were talking about this unprecedented wedding. Or rather, they were enjoying this carnival of the people. The road from the Song residence to Royal City had already been paved with red carpets, and the imperial guards were guarding on both sides of the red carpet. Not only that, the entire Shanghai City was tightly guarded by the City Guard Division and the Imperial Guards. The two major intelligence agencies, the Shanghai Guards and the Black Snake Guards, were also secretly guarding. Their goal was to ensure that there would be no disturbances at the wedding the next day. With the arrival of a happy event, the heavens were also on their side. Since yesterday, the sky had begun to clear up. The snow in the city began to slowly melt, forming small streams that flowed into the ditches on both sides of the road. By the afternoon of the first day of the new year, there was no longer a trace of white. The entire city was drowned in the festive red color. In the afternoon, the people who came to watch the wedding arrived one after another. The first to arrive were the allies of Shanghai City: Bai Hua, Feng Xiuhuang, Dragon Seeking Acupoints, Xie Sword Chi Thunderous, and so on. The members who had just participated in the Alliance Conference gathered in Shanghai City again. Every one of them brought a big gift. The Lord of Lingxi City, Bai Hua, presents a string of top-grade agate pearls. The Lord of Dragon Seeking Acupoints presents a string of East Sea pearls. The Master of Sword Chi Thunderous of the Rain Listening Tower presents a caddy of top-grade agarwood. The sound of the announcement was endless. Zisu, the manager of the Internal Affairs Department, had specially chosen a side hall to store the gifts. Those who came on the first day were all people close to Ouyang Shua. The second day, which was the real auspicious day, was the real auspicious day. There was an endless stream of people who came to congratulate him. The most important one was the imperial court. The four imperial courts of Xianying, Luoyang, Dali, and Xuanzhou all sent special envoys to congratulate Marquis Lianzhou's wedding. There was no one else other than Ouyang Shua who had such an honor. Dali and Xuanzhou had a close relationship with Shanghai City. Ouyang Shua's position as the southern border governor was jointly bestowed by the two imperial courts. As for Xianying and Luoyang, they had a different origin. In fact, it was the special envoys of these two imperial courts that made others envious. It was because the masters of these two royal cities were Emperor Qin and Emperor Wu of Han. It was extremely difficult to get their approval. The reason was that in Shanghai City, there were several important ministers and generals from the Qin and Han dynasties. Those who had a relationship with the Qin kingdom were Wei Yang, Bai Qi, Wei Ran, Zhang Han, Wei Zhang, Jing Jian, and Bailey Shi. Those who had a relationship with the Han dynasty were Xiao He, Han Xian, Hua Xubing, Xiao Hoing, Hua Guang, and Zhao Bonu. The two groups together accounted for more than one-third of the historical talents of Shanghai City. The two groups were the mainstays of Shanghai City. Shen Buhai had already reported to Ouyang Shua that he had to be wary of these two groups to prevent them from forming an alliance. Otherwise, once the alliance was established, it would definitely cause trouble. Ouyang Shua could only wait and see what would happen. Other than the congratulatory gifts, the special envoys of the imperial court also brought a special gift. The four imperial courts jointly decreed that Song Jia, the wife of the Marquis of Lianzhou, would be conferred the title of first-rank madam. During the spring and autumn warring states period, the wives of the feudal lords were called madam. Their status was equivalent to that of the princess of later generations. Song Jia's title was equivalent to that of Ouyang Shua's Marquis of Lianzhou. Just this alone was worth a lot of gold. Ouyang Shua married Song Jia at a later age, not only because he wanted to give Song Jia an explanation, but also because he wanted to establish Song Jia's status in the territory and gain the support of the citizens. Song Jia's title far exceeded Ouyang Shua's expectations. Other than the special envoys of the imperial court, there was also a group of players who came to congratulate Song Jia. Among them, there were lords and leaders of guilds who were invited, and there were also commoner lords who came uninvited. They said that they came to congratulate Ouyang Shua, but their real purpose was to build a relationship with him. The popularity of the Bank of the Four Seas made Shanghai City the hottest place in the world, especially for the commoner lords. They had automatically put themselves in the same camp as the Alliance of Mountains and Seas. Ouyang Shua's wedding was the best opportunity to get close to him. The gifts brought by these people with ulterior motives were naturally of great value. Ouyang Shua didn't refuse any of them. Speaking of which, the Bank of the Four Seas was able to absorb a large amount of deposits because of his identity as the spokesperson of the commoner players. In the game, commoner players made up the majority. Although they couldn't exchange large amounts of gold like the children of big families, it was still a considerable amount. In terms of total number, commoner players made up the majority. Depositing money into the Bank of the Four Seas was a very normal choice for them. Using the Bank of the Four Seas to expand Shanghai City's influence to all commoner lords was one of Ouyang Shua's goals. Other than these players, there were also some special existences. The most special ones were the Battle Wolves and Xiongba. Although the two of them didn't personally come to Shanghai City to congratulate Song Jia, they arranged for their trusted subordinates to bring gifts. Everyone knew that the Alliance of Mountains and Seas and Yin Huang Alliance were mortal enemies. Under such circumstances, the actions of the Battle Wolves and Xiongba were too thought-provoking. Ouyang Shua, on the other hand, didn't care much about this. Chapter 603. Ouyang Shua was not surprised by Xiongba's congratulations. To this ambitious person, he did things according to his heart, so why would he care about what the outside world thought? The two of them could not be considered friends, and there was even hatred between them. However, they were the same kind of people, and they appreciated each other. Zhang Lang's congratulations were somewhat out of Ouyang Shua's expectations. It seemed that the words of the battle in Mabe had touched Zhang Lang. The crowd that had come to watch the ceremony filled Shanghai City to the point that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Reporters from all the major media outlets gathered in Shanghai City, fighting to report on this grand wedding. On this day, Shanghai City's teleportation portal was completely open to the public. Of course, the necessary identity checks were still very necessary. Even if some people with ulterior motives wanted to use this opportunity to hide in Shanghai City, they would not be able to escape the tracking of the Shanghai Guards and Black Snake Guards. The two major intelligence agencies, with the support of a huge amount of funds, were abnormally terrifying. The number of spies increased exponentially, and there were thousands of them. It would be extremely difficult for anyone to escape their eyes. On this day, the full picture of Shanghai City was presented to the players of the China server. On the forums, there were rumors that Shanghai City was so prosperous that it was almost comparable to the royal city. In the eyes of the players, this was just not called me, without clothes flattering himself. How could a player city catch up to the royal city in a short 2 years? No one would believe it. Only when they saw it for themselves did they know that it was true. No words could describe the shock in the players' hearts. One could imagine what kind of uproar it would cause when the full picture of Shanghai City was spread throughout the China server through all the major media outlets. The image of Shanghai City in the hearts of the players would rise once again. For the newly opened Bank of the Four Seas, this was also a great piece of news. And this was one of Ouyang Shua's intentions. The current Shanghai City no longer needed to be hidden, and it could be presented to the world openly. This was the decisive change brought about by the difference in foundation. Ouyang Shua himself had no time to care about the excitement of the players. He was tormented by the ceremonial officer. He was like a marionette, guided through the procedures one by one, and it was dazzling. The bride fainted. In the evening, the wedding of the century reached its climax. All the red lanterns in the city were lit, making Shanghai City look like a city that never sleeps. The stage in the bell and drum tower was officially performing various operas. The people in the city adhered to the principle of proximity, surrounding the building and enjoying the opera feast. Fireworks rose from all parts of the city and exploded in the night sky. Countless children walked out of their homes and onto the streets. They looked up and clapped as they watched the fireworks. The royal city was even livelier. Just for the banquet, there were more than 200 tables. 18 tables were set up in the Marquis's mansion, and the most important guests were seated there. As the groom, Ouyang Shu naturally had to propose a toast. 18 tables, table by table, Ouyang Shua's head was already spinning. After all, after the system update, in order to pursue realism, Gaia would also make players drunk when they drank. Only when night fell did Ouyang Shuo return to his bedroom with the help of someone. Song, Ba, and the palace, and Shudo. Xiaoong Ba had to say. There was another ceremony in the palace. The commotion lasted for half an hour before the bystanders took their leave, leaving the two newcomers alone. As for making a scene in the bridal chamber, with Ouyang Shua's current status, who would have the guts? A warm red bed, a night of sex. Author, there should be 3,000 words here. Ouyang Shua slowly woke up when the sun was high up in the sky. Even with Ouyang Shua's strong physique, after getting drunk, coupled with the continuous plowing during the night, he was still exhausted. Song Jia had already woken up and was washing up. You're awake? Song Jia turned. Ouyang Shua nodded and prepared to get up. Song Jia called Zisu into the palace to help Ouyang Shua change and wash up. Ouyang Shua, who had just woken up, was half naked. His strong muscles exuded a strong masculine aura. Zisu was a virgin after all. Seeing such a scene, she could not help but feel shy. Fortunately, she knew that after the marriage, she would be the one to serve the Marquis. She forced herself to calm down. Ouyang Shua was indifferent to this. In the past, he was not used to being served. But after 2 years, he was used to it. If not for Zisu, he would not even be able to dress. As a Marquis, Ouyang Shua had countless clothes. What to wear and what to wear were all arranged by Zisu. If Ouyang Shua were to do it, he would not even know where to put his clothes. The guests from yesterday had mostly left. The side hall that was used to store gifts was filled to the brim. The entire Shanghai city was back on track. The wedding was like a wave in the river of time, passing in the blink of an eye. The only change was that the popularity of the people in the territory increased by another 3 points. After the wedding, Ouyang Shua had no time to rest. It was not easy for the officials to rush back to Shanghai City, so they could not leave in a hurry after the wedding. Using this chance, he naturally had to report his work to Ouyang Shua, the ruler. Apart from that, they also had to maintain relations with the 4 major divisions. In just a few days, the Bank of the Four Seas had collected more than 30 million gold coins. Shanghai City could naturally use this amount of money to borrow a part of the loan. With Shanghai City's financial health, it would not be a problem for them to get a loan of more than 5 million. With such a sum of money, the budget made by the General Administration of Finance at the end of last year had to be adjusted. How to lean towards the counties in the new budget was a big problem. Because of this, the county governors did not dare to neglect the officials of the 4 major divisions. The Protectorate Office now had a trace of the Imperial Court. The officials of the Protectorate Office were truly officials of the capital and had a respected status. With the adjustment of the territory the concept of the region and the imperial court became clearer. Family, the head of the finance department, became a powerful figure. The county governors were not fools. They knew that the one who truly controlled the budget was the marquis. Therefore, in the report, they racked their brains and described their grand development plan with great ambition. Ouyang Shua's attitude was still mainly supportive. The territory was resting for the first half of the year, so it was the best opportunity to develop the internal affairs. Ouyang Shua was worried that the county governors did not have the heart to expand. In the following week, Ouyang Shua was busy with government affairs. Song Jia was conferred the title of Madam and officially stepped onto the political stage of the territory. Usually, Ouyang Shua would let Song Jia handle the government affairs, such as attending the banquets of the Chamber of Commerce, attending the opening of shops, and attending activities that were close to the people. As the daughter of an aristocratic family, Song Jia handled these affairs with ease. In a short week, the image of the Marquis Madam was established in Shanghai City. Ouyang Shua was naturally happy to see this happen. Taking this opportunity, Ouyang Shua also made some adjustments to the status of the three sisters, Yingyu, Qing and Bing. He officially appointed them as the first princess and established their unique status in the territory. Cui Yingyu was appointed as the first princess of Yingyu. Mu Qingxi was appointed as the first princess of Qingyang, and Ouyang Bing was appointed as the first princess of Shuiyu. The title of princess was equivalent to that of a rank 2 princess. Other than the title of princess, there was also the corresponding land. Needless to say, the entire Cheongzhou County was Bing Er's land. Tian Wenjing, the county governor of Cheongzhou County, returned to Shanghai City this time to pay a visit to Ouyang Shua and Bing Er, the young master. Bing Er was still young, so she didn't have to worry about government affairs. Tian Wenjing was also very attentive. This time, when he came to the capital, he specially brought a large number of playthings, including some young spirit beasts for Bing Er to play with. When the little girl saw this, she was naturally very happy. Yingyu's land was chosen to be the Yin Luo Prefecture in Liizhou County. Qing Er's land was chosen to be the Shuitai Prefecture in Zhaoqing County. 20% of the taxes of the two prefectures would be used for their daily expenses. For Yingyu, the title of princess was undoubtedly a powerful protective talisman in the officialdom. From now on, whether it was in the officialdom or among the common people, the rumors about Yingyu would completely die down. One should know that it was a first-rate crime to talk about the daughter of a noble. Wei Yang, who was in charge of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, had gradually made the people aware of the existence of the law. The laws of the territory had also entered the final revision period. After the Lantern Festival, the laws of the territory would be officially promulgated and implemented. For the little money grubber Qing, or with the land, she no longer had to worry about money, so she could focus on her tailoring skills. Even her clothing factory was packaged and sold to the Chui Family Chamber of Commerce for a price of 150,000 gold coins. As for the shares in Sangha Restaurant, the two sisters had long withdrawn and handed over the entire restaurant to Gu Sanyang to manage. Naturally, Gu Sanyang was very grateful for this. One should know that with the prosperity of Shanghai City as the territory's first restaurant, the current Sangha Restaurant was an existence that made money every day. Gu Sanyang no longer needed to cook personally and focused on being the boss. It was rumored that Gu Sanyang already had the intention to find another husband and start a new family. Situations like Gu Sanyang's were not uncommon in the territory. When the refugees in the wilderness settled down and lived a prosperous life, they would start a new family and live a good life. It was precisely because of this that they were deeply grateful to their lord, Ouyang Shua. To the refugees, Ouyang Shua was no different from their second parent. In addition to the land, the construction division would also build a princess's residence in Shanghai City. Yingyu and Qing were already adults. After the Lantern Festival, they would move out of the protectorate manor and live in their respective princesses' residences. In this way, it would also eliminate the concerns of those with ulterior motives in the territory. Before this, when Yingyu and Qing or lived in the Marquis's residence. It was inevitable that people would think that the Marquis was using the excuse of taking in a sworn sister as an excuse to hide a mistress. It would inevitably tarnish the reputation of Yu and Qing. With the establishment of the princess's residence, all the rumors would be dispelled. As for Bing, she was temporarily underage and would still live in the protectorate manor. Chapter 604. As soon as the decree was issued, it caused waves in the territory. There were people who were envious and jealous, and there were people who cheered excitedly. The loudest cheers were none other than the Chui clan. The acquisition of Qing'er's clothing factory was already a huge profit in the business. Yu's conferment even caused the Chui clan to transform into a relative of the imperial family. The Chui clan's merchant group was truly worthy of its name. For the civil and military officials of the territory, the successive conferment of 3 princesses represented the prosperity of the Marquis clan. It was a great atmosphere of prosperity for the territory. Naturally, they were happy from the bottom of their hearts. However, some commoners didn't think so. As Ouyang Shua's sister, Binger was the little princess of the territory. Naturally, no one would gossip about her conferment as the first princess of Shuiyu. However, it was different for Yu and Qing, his 2 sworn sisters. Everyone in the territory knew that Yu and Qing were like other citizens. They were born as refugees. Marquis Jun treated them as his sworn sisters and accepted them into his mansion. Thus, there were already people who were jealous and gossiped about them in secret. Now, the 2 of them had advanced a step and were conferment as princesses. It was equivalent to reaching the sky in a single bound. Jealousy was inevitable. However, the 2 of them had already become nobles, and they couldn't casually comment on them. Even Qing herself was a little uneasy when she was first conferred. It was Ouyang Shua's words that made the 2 sisters feel at ease and accept it calmly. For Ouyang Shua, conferring princesses was first for the needs of the territory and second for his personal feelings. In the eyes of others, Qing and Qing had climbed up a high branch. But who knew how much help and comfort the 2 sisters had brought to Ouyang Shua? So what if there were some rumors? The Spring Festival in Shanghai City was really lively. On the 12th of February, which was the 10th day of the first month, a huge stone tablet was erected in the square of King City. The stone tablet was 9 meters high, 5 meters wide, and 1 meter thick. It stood in the middle of the square with a magnificent momentum. Both sides of the stone tablet were densely engraved with tens of thousands of simple and unadorned small seal characters. The words Territory Code were even more eye-catching. Led by Wei Yang, the head of the Internal Affairs Bureau, the law school, and experts from the real world, the Territory Code, which took several months to compile with dozens of additions and deletions, was finally approved and officially finalized. This stone tablet was none other than the Codex tablet. The moment the Codex seal was unveiled, it meant that the territory had officially entered the Codex era. More than 10,000 copies of the Territory Code had already been printed. According to the deployment of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, all territorial government offices, prefectures, counties, towns, and even villages must be equipped with at least 2 copies of the Territorial Code. The heads of all levels of the Internal Affairs Division had 1 each. The prefectural government schools had to teach the Territory Code. According to Wei Yang's original words, he wanted the people of the territory to understand the Territory Code, within 3 months follow the Territory Code, and respect the Territory Code. Within half a year, the concept of the Law of Generals was deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. In addition, in order to accurately interpret the essence of the Territory Code, the Law School of Southwest University China would also set up a special class to study the Territory Code. The students of the first batch were the heads of the Internal Affairs Division. All in all, in order to fully implement the Territory Code in the territory, Wei Yang had formulated a complete set of supporting measures. It was definitely not an impromptu decision. He was the most successful reformer in history, and he had a lot of experience in implementing laws. The Spring Festival outside the territory was not peaceful either. First, the exposure of Shanghai City's true colors caused a huge uproar in the forum. Ouyang Shua's popularity skyrocketed. Only then did the players truly understand what it meant to have a foundation. The world's #1 lord was truly worthy of his name. On the 5th day of the first month, Huitong Bank set up branches in the 9 Great Bank. Huitong Bank's deposit interest rate was exactly the same as the Bank of the Four Seas. Even so, for Huitong Bank, it was already an improvement from the original foundation. The foundation of the Bank of the Four Seas was not something that Huitong Bank could easily shake. As for raising the deposit interest rate, Lord Chunxin and the rest wanted to, but they were powerless. No one was a fool. The purpose of a bank was to make a profit. Once the deposit interest rate was raised again, they would be making a loss. Even so, Huitong Bank could not be underestimated. As for how to run a bank, the talents and resources of the great families were enough to beat the Alliance of Shanghai. With Lord Chunxin's interference, the Bank of the Four Seas held a large-scale recruitment fair after the new year. At the very least, it was not as successful as Meng Jida had envisioned. One had to know that the top talents in the bank were almost all members of the system. Di Chun and the rest had control over this group of people, and Ouyang Shua could not shake them. Helpless, Meng Jida could only settle for the next best thing. In addition, in order to attract customers, Huitong Bank also used their marketing methods in real life and copied them into the game. For example, small gifts when opening an account. After a few days, Huitong Bank had stabilized its position and was competing with the Bank of the Four Seas. If it was not for the sudden exposure of Shanghai City, they might have really been tricked by Huitong Bank. Other than attracting small investors, Huitong Bank also learned from the Bank of the Four Seas and targeted their core customers at the guilds. As expected, 3 of the top 10 guilds, Crisscrossing Sword Chi, 18 Steeds of Swallow and Cloud, and Embroidered Uniform Guard, all invested in Huitong Bank. Other than that, a total of more than 20 large guilds in the 9 great royal cities invested in Huitong Bank. Subsequently, the number of guilds that applied to invest in Huitong Bank reached 30 to 40. It was reported that this time, the 6 great families came together, and even the elders of their families were involved. They used up all their connections and emotions to create such a stir. Huitong Bank was very aggressive this time. Ouyang Shua didn't fall into disorder when facing this. He instructed Meng Jida to not change 3 things. That was that the development strategy of the bank would not change, the high standard conditions for equity participation would not change, and the strict conditions for lending would not change. The battle between the 2 banks was destined to be a long one. If they were led by the nose by Huitong Bank, they would easily fall into a disadvantage. In terms of innate conditions, the Bank of the Four Seas was superior to Huitong Bank. As long as they fought steadily, they would not lose. What they were afraid of was that they would be too impatient and do something that would benefit them in the short term. Ouyang Shua wanted to fight steadily, but someone was not willing to give up. After the new year, a conspiracy against the Bank of the Four Seas had already been secretly set up. Once it succeeded, it would be enough to push the Bank of the Four Seas into an abyss of no return. The 14th of February was the 12th of January. After leaving Shanghai City for a month and a half, the Nanyang Navy's commander-in-chief, Zheng He, finally returned. This time, Zheng He inspected the 3 fleet's bases and did a thorough investigation of the Nanyang Navy. The moment he returned, He submitted a plan for the expansion of the Nanyang Navy to Ouyang Shua. According to Zheng He's plan, the 3 fleets under the Nanyang Navy had to be at full strength in 3 years in Gaia. If not, we won't be able to dominate the oceans, Zheng He said. Other than that, Zheng He also proposed practical and detailed reforms to the fleet's warship allocation, command system, formation methods, and other aspects. Zheng He, who had sailed the Western Ocean 7 times, was an expert in this area. Needless to say, Shanghai City's shipbuilding and firearms technology came from the Ming Dynasty. To Zheng He, seeing the 3 fleets was like seeing his own fleet. There was no sense of unfamiliarity. Therefore, Ouyang Shual accepted all of Zheng He's reform suggestions. At the same time, he authorized Zheng He to carry out a drastic reform of the Nanyang Navy, allowing the Navy to rise from the ashes. At the same time, he instructed the military office to fully cooperate with Zheng He's reorganization plan. As for the expansion of the fleet, Ouyang Shual was the one who had doubts. He did not feel that the fleet was expanding too quickly. After all, Zheng He had given him 3 years for Gaia. What Ouyang Shual was worried about was where to find such a number of high-level sailors, navigators, and captains. Shanghai City could not nurture such people in a short period of time. Other than that, Ouyang Shual had another worry. Since the establishment of the 3 fleets, there had not been a commander. If they really wanted to achieve full strength, they would have to recruit powerful naval generals. Where could he find one in such a short period of time? Ouyang Shual only hoped that he would gain something in the future 6 battle. Zheng He had helped him solve one of the biggest problems. Reporting to Marquis, I will make a trip to Chuanzhou tomorrow morning to recruit relevant naval talents. Huh? Ouyang Shual was stunned. I have some connections in Chuanzhou. Zheng He explained. I see. Ouyang Shual was enlightened. How could he forget that in history, Chuanzhou was the most important transit station and departure point for Zheng He's voyages. In Chuanzhou, Zheng He had extraordinary influence, especially in the fields of sailors and navigators. Zheng He was a godlike existence. Once Zheng He appeared in Chuanzhou, Ouyang Shual could imagine how excited those people would be. Previously, the Military Affairs Office had been unable to recruit high-level talents no matter how hard they tried. Now, they would probably fight to come to Shanghai City. Ouyang Shual could not help but feel vexed. How could he forget about this? If that's the case, thank you, General. Feel free to tell me if you need anything. Ouyang Shual said. I have no other requests. Zheng He was also confident. Ouyang Shual nodded and took out an item from his chest. It was the complete North Bay treasure map after fusion. He handed the treasure map to Zheng He and said, Take a look at this. Zheng He took a look and found it somewhat familiar. As the commander of 7 voyages, Zheng He was no stranger to the North Bay. In addition to this month of patrol, he had a clear understanding of the ocean in the game. The first person Zheng He thought of was Annan. To obtain the treasure, conflict was inevitable. Marquis, what do you mean? Zheng He asked uncertainly. I hope that I can obtain this treasure before the Great Voyage Plan is implemented. Just take it as an opportunity for the fleet to train in actual combat. How about it? Ouyang Shual said. I will not let you down, Zheng He replied solemnly. Chapter 605. Gaia Year 3, February 25th, Beihai Port. After 10 days of preparation, the fleet that was going to search for the treasures of Beihai Bay was finally ready to set sail. The expedition was led by Navy Governor Zheng He. Each of the 3 fleets would send a team to participate in the battle, forming the Alliance Fleet. The Allied fleet consisted of more than 300 warships, including 20 large towering ships and 150 cannons. There were a total of 36,000 officers and soldiers participating in the battle, and 38,000 sailors and other support personnel. The commander-in-chief of the Cliff Mountain Fleet, Kai Mao, the commander-in-chief of the Beihai Bay Fleet, and the commander-in-chief of the Jiaozhou Fleet, Smoke Demon, were all dispatched. The 3 generals had to thank Zheng He for this expedition. Zheng He's recruitment mission to Chuanzhou was unusually smooth, even exceeding expectations. In just 3 days, Zheng He brought more than 200 experienced navigators and more than 2,000 high-level sailors from Chuanzhou. In addition, Zheng He also recruited a group of Navy generals, including 5 high-ranking generals, 18 mid-ranking generals, and 45 low-ranking generals. In an instant, the quality of the Nanyang Navy's generals was improved by 2 levels. That was not all. After bringing the people back and settling them down, Zheng He set off again to Jianya to carry out a similar recruitment mission. Although it was not as fruitful as the one in Chuanzhou, it was still fruitful. Zheng He's 2 missions had undoubtedly laid a solid foundation for the expansion of the Nanyang Navy. Next, As long as ordinary sailors and soldiers were recruited and trained, the three fleets would be at full strength. A conservative estimate would be that it would take half a year. Zheng He's name spread like wildfire, establishing the authority of the commander-in-chief of the Nanyang Navy. At the Beihai Bay dock, Dragon Head was like a king, standing out among the other warships. Considering the practical needs, Ouyang Shual had already handed over his flagship, Dragon Head, to Zheng He to use as the flagship of the Nanyang Navy. As for Ouyang Shual, he was no longer assigned a specialized flagship. After the cannons were modified, Dragon Head could be said to be one of the most powerful warships in ancient China. The entire ship was equipped with 20 cannons, as well as all kinds of firearms such as flintlocks and rockets. It could be said that apart from the future ironclad warships, Dragon Head was the strongest warship on the sea. The cost of modification alone was more than 50,000 gold coins. If the Dragon Head was auctioned, it would probably fetch a sky-high price. Ouyang Shual would accompany the fleet on this expedition because it might involve disputes between countries, so he could make decisions at any time. Of course, Ouyang Shual wouldn't interfere with the specific command of the battle. It was up to Zheng He to decide. At 9 o'clock in the morning, after paying respects to Mazu, the fleet immediately left the port. Taking advantage of the winter monsoon, the fleet rode the wind and waves all the way to the nameless island marked on the treasure map. The entire North Bay had long since been cleansed by the North Bay fleet. Not a single pirate organization dared to enter the North Bay. Otherwise, they would be mercilessly attacked by the fleet. Affected by this, the northern coast of Annan had been calm recently, and there were no more pirate attacks. The location marked on the treasure map is located in the sea between Onhai County and Romping County, less than 100 nautical miles from the Annan coastline. To the north of the two counties was Hanoi, the only capital of the Annan district. When the fleet approached the coast of Annan, the first thing they encountered was the fishing boats of Annan. To these fishermen, they had not seen the pirates for several months, so they were naturally defenseless. Seeing such a huge fleet, they couldn't help but be shocked and dodge to the side. The fleet ignored the fishing boats and continued to approach. Finally, about 150 nautical miles away from the coastline, they encountered the enemy's navy fleet. Nearly half of the border of the Annan district was the coastline. Therefore, there were an unusually large number of player lords who built cities near the sea. They were scattered all over the long coastline. For these lords, the coastal waters were also a part of their territory. Therefore, more or less, they would set up a navy to patrol the surrounding sea and protect the safety of the fishermen. Previously, these navy had also met the North Bay fleet. However, Pei Donglai strictly followed Ouyang Shua's instructions and did not take the initiative to provoke trouble. The two sides were in harmony. This time, the situation was obviously very different. In order to find the treasure, the joint fleet must approach the sea of these territories. For the lords, this was undoubtedly a provocation. The Lord flag of Shanghai City, the Golden Dragon flag, and the Sea Dragon flag of the Shanghai City Navy were not unfamiliar to the Navy of Annan. As soon as the joint fleet approached, the Navy on the opposite side began to wave the flag signal. The general idea was that if they went any further, they would enter their territory, and without permission, they were not allowed to enter. Marquis, on the Dragon Head, Zheng He asked Ouyang Shual for instructions. Tell them that we didn't mean to offend them. We're just passing by to do a mission. Once the mission is completed, we'll leave immediately. Ouyang Shua's original intention was to find the treasure. As for the war between nations, it was better not to provoke it if possible. Yes. After receiving the reply, Zheng He immediately ordered the flag bearers to wave the flag signal. Unfortunately, Ouyang Shua's goodwill was obviously not trustworthy in the eyes of the other side. Even Ouyang Shua, who didn't understand flag signal, could feel the determination in the other side's flag signal. What did they say? Ouyang Shua's tone was somewhat gloomy. Reporting to the Marquis, the other side still insists that we are not allowed to enter without permission. Their attitude is extremely unyielding, Zheng He replied. Ouyang Shua shook his head and slightly smiled. They refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Since that's the case, we'll directly attack and sink any ship in front of the fleet as punishment. Marquis this. Zheng, he was somewhat hesitant. In history, the main purpose of Zheng He's 7 voyages to the west was not the so-called ocean trade, nor was it the colonization that the West was good at. Instead, it was to make the small nations rush to the capital to pay their respects to the Ming Emperor in the name of the Celestial Empire. The purpose was to create a scene of 10,000 nations coming to pay homage to the emperor. Every time he went to the West, it was a heavy burden on the national treasury. Sending out large amounts of gold, silver, and jewels was only exchanged for the courtesy of some small nations. His actions could be said to be a loss. After Ming Chengzu passed away, Ming Renzong immediately called a halt to his voyages to the West. Precisely because of this, in Zheng He's philosophy, peace was the most important thing. Among his 7 voyages to the West, other than fighting pirates, there were probably no more than 5 recorded battles. Therefore, Zheng He was somewhat unaccustomed to Ouyang Shua's straightforwardness. Ming Qingzu was wealthy and ambitious, so Ouyang Shua couldn't comment on it. But he was different. He was a pragmatist through and through. In order to achieve his goal, he didn't hesitate to bathe the world in blood. Moreover, this was a game, a wilderness destined to be filled with the flames of war. There was a huge difference from history. War was the theme of the wilderness to begin with. The war in the game was just one of Gaia's war settings. It was only to increase the game's playability. In the Federation, in reality, the global governments had long merged into one. There was no such thing as a regional nation. General, Ouyang Shua looked straight at Zheng He and said solemnly, "General, please remember this. This is the wilderness. There is no distinction between justice and injustice in war. There is only the law of the jungle, the survival of the fittest." Zheng He's face froze as he barely replied, "As the Marquis commands." When Ouyang Shua saw this, he did not say another word. To change a person's worldview and values was a gradual process. The search for the treasure was also a trial for Zheng He by Ouyang Shua. The future voyages would probably be more bloody and cruel than today's war. Zheng He had to make changes. If not, how could a good man, an envoy of peace, lead the strongest navy in the territory and realize Ouyang Shua's ambition of dominating the seas? "Fire!" Zheng He turned around and gave the order. "Yes, sir." With the military order, the cannons roared. Boom! Boom! The first round of cannons made Ouyang Shua frown. This was the first time the Nanyang Navy used cannons in a real battle, but the effect was shameful. First of all, it was a mess. Over 100 cannons, there was no proper arrangement of firepower at all, and they were firing randomly. Some places were densely packed with shelling, while some places were calm and tranquil. Secondly, the accuracy of the cannons was frighteningly low. The cannoneers obviously did not understand the parameters of the cannons. Some cannons fired before they reached the firing range and naturally hit the sea. Some cannons did not aim well, and the cannons exploded on both sides of the enemy's ships. Therefore, the first round of cannons looked very imposing and scared the Navy so much that their faces turned pale. However, the actual damage was less than a dozen enemy ships that were hit. Seeing this, Zheng He's face was full of shame. "General, you don't have to be like this. It's not your fault." Ouyang Shua comforted him. Indeed, Zheng He had been running around since he joined Shanghai City, and he was still at the stage of understanding the Navy. He did not have the time to really train the Navy. The current fleet was only trained by the 3 commanders-in-chief. "Don't worry, Marquis. Within half a month, this situation will definitely change." Even so, Zheng He still made a military pledge in front of the Marquis. As the commander-in-chief of the Nanyang Navy, the fleet's poor performance made Zheng He feel ashamed. "Then I'll wait and see." Ouyang Shua smiled slightly. As the two talked and laughed, the second round of cannons began. With the previous example, the effect of this round was somewhat unsatisfactory. A total of 20 enemy ships were hit. After 2 rounds of cannons, the enemy's navy was almost paralyzed. Facing the sudden cannons, the enemy was obviously not prepared at all. They were directly hit and even forgot the basic counterattack. At this moment, a system notification sounded in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Player not saying that has no clothes led troops to annihilate a Navy fleet in the Annan District, triggering a national war. The Annan District has officially entered national war mode. Players, please be prepared. Chapter 606. All the players in the Annan District suddenly received a system announcement. System announcement. The Lord of China has initiated a national war. The Annan District has entered the national war mode. King City River has entered the second level of alert. Please check the specific situation yourself. As soon as the announcement came out, the whole country was in an uproar. For the players in the Annan District, this national war came too suddenly. According to the information disclosed by Gaia on the official website, there were two main points in the national war mode. First, the merit point setting. The two sides of the national war would kill each other, and there would be merit points as a reward, just like in the battle map. Unlike the battle map, there was no setting for the battle contribution points in the wilderness. Killing an ordinary soldier of the enemy country would directly get 1 merit point as a reward. Rich merit points were one of the main motivations for the future Lord to launch a national war. Second, the rules for determining the outcome. The national war was divided into a full-scale war and a local war. The basis of the difference between the two was whether the king city was captured or not. Simply put, as long as the two countries were at war, it would trigger a local war. But once the war spread to the king city, where the king city's army took the initiative to participate in the war, it would immediately turn into a full-scale war. The outcome of the two wars was also different. For a local war, it had nothing to do with the overall outcome, but entirely depended on the battle situation at that time. But for a full-scale war, the outcome must end with one side completely annihilating the other side. Therefore, a full-scale war was almost equivalent to a war to destroy a country. The system announcement in the Annan District mentioned that King City River had entered the second level of alert, which meant that this national war was just a local war. If it was a full-scale war, then the King City would be in the highest level of alert. In addition, for a local war, whether the players participated in the war or not was entirely voluntary. And if it was a full-scale war, all the players on the attack side, whether they were adventure players or lord players, would be forced to participate in the war by the system. Therefore, it was very difficult to destroy a country. At the most tragic time, all the players in the country had to be eliminated before the war ended. In this regard, the China region had the advantage. The number of players in the China region basically guaranteed that there was no risk of the country being destroyed. The information of the national war, disclosed by Gaia, immediately caused an uproar in the Annan District. On the forum, there were endless requests for war. For the players, it was unbearable to be attacked at their doorstep. Needless to say, the one who started the war was merely a lord. Even though not wearing clothes was famous all over the world, it couldn't stop the enthusiasm of the Annan District players to join the battle. Although the area of Annan District was not large, its population density was extremely high, nearly twice that of China. There were more than 5 million players in the entire Annan District. Even if the old, weak, women, and children were excluded, it was still a terrifying number. Just the total number of adult adventurer players exceeded 2 million. It was a country that could not be underestimated. Excluding the lifestyle players, the total number of combat players was close to 1 million. So, how could they tolerate Shanghai City's provocation? Soon, the frontline battle report was revealed. This time, the attack came from the sea. Shanghai City had sent out a huge fleet, and they were ferociously charging over. All of a sudden, the feudal lords along the coast of Annan became restless. They issued a level 1 war alert in their territories, and a large number of warships were activated, preparing to go out to sea for battle. The hot-blooded adventurer players didn't want to be left out, and they volunteered to take them on the warships of the lords. They were going to have a decisive battle with Shanghai City's army at sea. Some of the more impatient ones simply rented merchant ships and set sail just like that. For a time, thousands of sails raced along the coast of Annan District, which was quite spectacular. The drawback was that the technology tree of Annan District had neither the modern technology of the West nor the ancient shipbuilding heritage of China. Its strongest warship was not as good as the second-class warship of Shanghai City. Therefore, their only way to win was to rely on the tactic of overwhelming numbers. If the players of the Annan District had always been in such a chaotic state, then they were just scattered sand, which was not enough to pose any threat to the Shanghai City fleet. Fortunately, at the critical moment, someone stood up. He was the feudal lord of Haifeng City, Ruan Tianke, the leader of the Annan Northern Alliance. Ruan Tianke called on everyone to unite and coordinate, strive to annihilate the invading enemy in one fell swoop, and defend the honor of the country. As the top feudal lord of the Annan District, Ruan Tianke was undoubtedly very successful, and his appeal among the players was not trivial. Soon, hundreds of feudal lords along the coast united around Ruan Tianke. After some discussion, a huge allied fleet was quickly formed. However, the coastline of the northern Annan District was long, and it would take some time to integrate the fleet together. In desperation, in response to the strong appeal of adventurous players, Ruan Tianke could only order more than 20 feudal lords of Haifeng County and Romping County as the vanguard to take the lead. Some players who could not wait had already gone to sea. North Bay, on Dragon Head. The moment he received the system prompt, Ouyang Shual was ready to fight a tough battle. Quickly clean up the battlefield and advance at full speed. Ouyang Shual ordered. Understood. Zheng, he also realized that there seemed to be a huge change in the battle. After hurriedly cleaning up the battlefield, Zheng, he ordered the formations to release a large number of scarlet horseboats. Like casting a net, they laid it in the sea in front of them, in order to find traces of enemy ships and spy on the enemy. Soon, Zheng He's intuition was fulfilled. Not long after the fleet sailed, they encountered waves of enemy ships. The strange thing was that these enemy ships were very weak and scattered, without any sort of organization to speak of. Even some merchant ships and fishing boats were mixed among them. This is considered a navy. Zheng, he was speechless. Just sink them. Yes, sir. Zheng, he did not want to use precious cannons to deal with these small fries. After the modification, the fortress ships and the Tao warships were all equipped with sharp iron tips that looked like beaks and even more powerful iron collars. Ordinary small and medium-sized warships were directly cut in half by their collisions. Although the warships of the Annan District were not good, the players were very enthusiastic. Each warship carried a large number of adventurous players, ranging from hundreds to thousands. They were still thinking of having a hot battle with the fleet of Shanghai City. Hand-to-hand combat was a battle between men. When they saw the fortress ships that were several stories high, the horse-like Tao warships, and the ghost-like scarlet horseboats, they realized how big the world was. In front of the fortress ships, their warships were just babies. They could already foresee the tragedy that was about to happen. Sure enough, under the collision, a large number of players fell into the sea like dumplings. Suddenly, countless black heads emerged from the calm sea, which was quite a spectacular scene. Zheng, he did not even bother to waste arrows on these players who fell into the sea, because once they fell into the sea, the chance of survival was close to zero, so there was no need to waste precious arrows. It should be noted that the number of arrows carried by the warships was limited by the load. Only the players who tried to climb into the sea and fight with the warships of Shanghai City would be shot. After all, among these adventurous players, there were still some with unique skills. Martial arts were not unique to the China region. Ouyang Shuo stood on the dragon head in silence, letting Zheng he command him. His merit points were rising at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 2 battles, Ouyang Shuo had gained more than 20,000 merit points, which was really terrifying. Such a great harvest was also related to the characteristics of naval battles. After all, once a warship was sunk, almost all the soldiers would be wiped out. The casualty rate was unusually high. The two battles were just the prelude to the national war. In the port of Haiphong, a huge fleet had already assembled and was attacking the fleet of Shanghai City. Further away, on the coastline, tens of thousands of warships were gathering at the port of Haiphong. The headquarters of the Allied forces was located in Haiphong, which was also the base camp of Ruan Tianke. Apart from these two fleets, the fleet of Shanghai City was also sailing with increasing difficulty. The further they went, the more enemy warships appeared. The enthusiasm of the players of the Annan district shocked Ouyang Shua. The adventurous players were not real fools. The miserable experience of the First Fleet made them quickly calm down. They realized that if they continued to rush forward in a disorderly manner, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Therefore, the following fleets of players were quickly divided into two camps. Some returned to the port of Haiphong and met up with the Allied fleets, while the others gathered together and marched forward again. When a fleet of Shanghai City once again encountered the enemy fleet, the spectacular scene stunned Zheng He. He saw thousands of warships gathered on the vast sea. There were all kinds of warships covering the sea, and, as far as the eye could see, there were all kinds of sails. Zheng He was not crazy to crash into the enemy fleet with only 300 warships of the Allied fleet. As the saying went, ants could bite an elephant to death. If they used the same tactic as before, the biggest possibility was not to sink the enemy ships, but to be drowned in the endless fleet of warships, never to come out again. Pass the order, fire all cannons. Zheng He ordered. Yes, sir. The familiar rumbling sound of cannons exploded on the sea again. Under the bombardment, the fleet of warships on the opposite side was immediately in chaos. The order of battle, which had been orderly just now, was immediately shot to the left and right. It was as if a basket of stones had suddenly been thrown into a calm lake. Even so, the fleet of warships still stood firm. Braving the cannons, they launched a fearless charge against the fleet of Shanghai City. Along with the horn to charge, a dense barrage of arrows poured down mercilessly toward the Shanghai City fleet. Because of the large number of people, the arrows even weaved a pitch-black arrow net in the air. The fleet of Shanghai City was facing a life-and-death test. Chapter 607. Concentrate all the cannons and blast open a channel in the middle of the enemy ships. Facing the crazy counterattack of the enemy fleet, Zheng He was calm and quickly came up with a solution. Under his order, the cannons fired in unison. What would happen if 150 cannons fired at the same time? Zheng He gave the answer. Under the bombardment of the cannons, the dense enemy fleet was split in half, as if it was cut in half by a god with a giant sword. In the middle of the dense fleet, an empty channel of more than 90 meters wide was suddenly cleared. Countless warship wreckage floated on the sea. Thousands of adventurer players were hit by shell fragments, seriously injured, and fell into the sea, wailing. Those who had not experienced such a scene could not feel this shock. The rain of arrows from the enemy fleet stopped. Zheng He, however, was not shocked at all. He continued to command, "The fleet will quickly pass through the middle in battle formation. Scatter the rockets to both sides and blow up the fleet on both sides." It was very difficult for warships to fire cannons when they were moving fast, especially this kind of heavy and outdated cannon. Its huge recoil was very likely to capsize the warship directly. Therefore, Zheng He could only settle for the next best thing. He used the light fire arrows to counterattack and disrupt the enemy's formation. "Yes, sir. Navy soldiers, get ready to fight at any time." Zheng He continued to order. "Yes, sir." The Shanghai City fleet changed its formation, accelerated its speed, and rushed forward. Because it was a joint battle between the three fleets, the command and dispatch of the fleets was still a little uncoordinated. Fortunately, after a few stumbles, they finally completed the change of formation. The warships of the Annan district had been heavily damaged, but they did not completely lose their combat power. After all, the huge number of warships was there, and it was not easy to defeat them. The warships on both sides quickly moved toward the middle, trying to attack the Shanghai City fleet. The adventurer players on the ships were already anxious, shouting to avenge their brothers who had died in the battle. Of course, they first had to avoid the rocket attack. The current rockets were completely different from the rockets that had been soaked in fierce fire oil. The most representative was naturally the Fire Dragon out at sea, a multi-stage rocket. The range of 15 kilometers was enough to completely cover both sides of the enemy fleet. The enemy ships that were hit by the rockets suddenly burst into flames, and the dense crew members made the warships panic. Then this panic was transmitted to the surrounding warships. Therefore, the enemy fleet's charge could be said to be stumbling. Even so, a large number of small warships still managed to bite onto the Shanghai City warships like ants. At this time, it was time for the naval soldiers to appear. For the first time, the two sides started to fight. This allowed the Annan players to finally vent their anger. With red eyes, they fought with the Nanyang Navy. Artillery team, get ready. Zheng, he ordered again. Hand-to-hand combat was not Zheng He's style. The firearms of the Ming Dynasty were Zheng He's forte. Because of this, the Combat Readiness Division specially followed Zheng He's request and equipped the three fleets with all kinds of firearms. Originally, Ouyang Shuo had placed these firearms on the list of eliminated weapons. Since it was Zheng He's request, Ouyang Shuo naturally had no reason to stop him. With Shanghai City's current level of steelmaking, speeding up the production of a batch of firearms was really not a difficult matter. Who would have thought that this batch of firearms would be so powerful? With the support of the gunners, the Navy quickly stabilized their position. The enemy's casualties were getting higher and higher. When the Shanghai City fleet passed through the Central Channel, they left behind a sea of blood. After the breakthrough, Zheng he did not give up. Stop advancing and reorganize the battle formation. Yes, sir. The joint fleet slowly stopped and turned the cannons again. Fire. Without Zheng He's order, the three major fleets already knew what to do. The enemy fleet, which had been left behind, had not yet recovered from the heavy damage when another round of the Grim Reaper greeted them. Ouyang Shuo did not expect that the seemingly difficult battle would be so easy under Zheng He's command. The enemy fleet was completely passive and could only take a beating. God-tier naval generals were indeed extraordinary. From the looks of it, Gaia must have strengthened Zheng He's military leadership skills. China's famous naval generals were really rare. If they did not strengthen them, they would not be able to fight. From this, it could be seen that the generals in the other regions should have similar enhancements. This way, Gaia could achieve the relative balance that had always been maintained. The next battle was an unequal fight. After a few rounds of bombardment, the menacing enemy fleet finally regained their senses. In the face of the harsh death penalty, they had no choice but to admit defeat and flee in all directions. In this battle alone, Ouyang Shuo obtained more than 20,000 merit points. While the battlefield was being cleaned up, the Scarlet Horseboats finally brought the latest frontline military intelligence. Ouyang Shuo frowned when he learned that Annan's regular naval fleet had set sail. In the previous battles, Shanghai City's fleet seemed to have won beautifully, but in fact, it was not without losses. Just the war resources alone had been depleted by 1/3. If this continued, Ouyang Shuo was not sure if they could reach the nameless island smoothly. In the end, this national war was just a side mission. Finding the treasure was the most important. General, we have to change our strategy, Ouyang Shuo said. Marquis, what do you mean? Zheng, he was also a little worried. Ouyang Shuo said, repair the plank road in the open and move in the dark. Split up. Zheng he understood immediately. That's right. Ouyang Shuo nodded with a smile. General will lead the main fleet to deal with the enemy at sea and attract all their attention. I will personally lead an elite team to secretly go to the nameless island. Marquis Jun is wise. It's just one thing. It's not easy for General to restrain an entire nation's enemy fleet. Ouyang Shuo expressed his concern. Please rest assured, Marquis. I have my plans. Zheng, he was confident. In that case, I'll leave it to General. Ouyang Shuo cupped his fists and agreed with Zheng He on the rendezvous point. He was ready to disembark with his guards. Since it was a secret trip, they naturally couldn't take the Dragonhead warship. Even if it was another fortress ship, it wouldn't work. It was too eye-catching and would be recognized by Annan's players. Therefore, Ouyang Shuo was ready to set sail on the Dragonhead warship. At this moment, Ouyang Shuo turned his head and glanced at the opposite sea. Suddenly, a plan came to his mind. On the sea, the enemy's warships had already fled, leaving behind some wreckage. Apart from that, there were a few relatively intact warships that were abandoned on the surface of the sea. Men, Ouyang Shuo said, "Here, arrange for people to collect 10 enemy warships and load them with resources. They will be our warships." Yes, riding on the Annan's warship was the best disguise. The Annan's players would never think that there would be an accomplice sneaking into their hinterland. An hour later, everything was ready. Without verbose words, Ouyang Shuo directly ordered to set sail. In addition to his guards, Zheng He arranged for the most elite captains, sailors, and naval officers to accompany him. The small fleet quietly sailed to the unknown sea. Zheng He led the joint fleet and took the initiative to head toward the Annan Alliance's fleet. His task was to firmly lock the eyes of the entire Annan Alliance on this fleet. The bustling sea gradually calmed down. Just as Ouyang Shuo went to sea, a huge conspiracy was brewing. After the Lantern Festival, thousands of players went to the Chong and branch of the Bank of the Four Seas to deposit money every day. This group of players was not individual investors, but a unified action. They were mixed in the mighty depositing team and did not attract the attention of the bank. It was the same for 3 days in a row. Immediately afterward, the Chong and Evening News and other local media began to constantly expose. Almost every piece of news was negative about the alliance of mountains and seas. The Alliance of Mountains and Seas obtained a large amount of low-interest loans from the Bank of the Four Seas, and more than 90% of them were used for the infrastructure construction of the territory. There was no profit at all, and there was a great risk of default. Shanghai City used the reserves of the Bank of the Four Seas without authorization, and the bank's treasury is actually an empty shell. The baleful blood mercenary group was forced to invest in the Bank of the Four Seas. It is reported that Bloody Romance has the intention to withdraw from the Bank of the Four Seas. Every piece of news was specious. It was like a rumor, but it was also like inside information. When such negative news increased, it naturally attracted the attention of the players. It was not just a saying that 3 people make a tiger. Ouyang Shuo was not in Shanghai City, so he naturally did not know. Moreover, most of these negative news came from the Chong and Evening News and other local media, so Ouyang Shuo could not pay attention to it. Not to mention Ouyang Shuo. Even Bai Hua and the others did not know anything. Only the Black Snake Guard's intelligence station in Chong and intercepted such information and reported it to the Black Snake Guard headquarters. However, in the 3rd year of Gaia, the Black Snake Guard expanded again, and their tentacles extended further and further. More than 1,000 pieces of information were gathered to the headquarters every day. Such a piece of information without real evidence naturally did not attract the attention of the headquarters. It could even be said that before it was sent to the Black Snake Guard's desk, it was cut off and dealt with according to the rules. Chong was still a blank spot for the Alliance of Shanghai. The guilds that cooperated with the Bank of the Four Seas were not in Chong'an. Because of this, these negative news could quickly ferment and become more and more intense. Otherwise, the allies would have long known. Just when the players in Chong and City were feeling a trace of distrust towards the Bank of the Four Seas, the group of players that had previously deposited money in the bank appeared again. This time, they did not come to deposit money, but to withdraw money. Since the opening of the Bank of the Four Seas Chong and branch, many people had deposited money, but such a large-scale withdrawal was really rare. Such an abnormality naturally attracted the attention of other players. After a little inquiry, there was an uproar. Those players who came to withdraw money exaggerated the negative news that was exposed by the Chong and Evening News. In the end, they solemnly vowed, This kind of money house is too dangerous. It's better to withdraw it. This is our hard-earned money." "Yes, yes, yes," someone echoed. Chapter 608. It can't be, right? The Bank of the Four Seas reputation is trustworthy. Some people didn't believe the rumors either. Who knows? There are many sanctimonious people out there. I'd rather believe it. Forget it. Let's withdraw the money first. Under the incitement of some people finally wavered and started to follow the crowd. The power of rumors was very effective in front of the people of the country. In history, because of the ridiculous rumors on the internet, there have been several panic buying frenzy, which was the best proof. For a period of time, the number of people withdrawing money from the Bank of the Four Seas Chong and branch exceeded the number of people depositing money. Even those who doubted the rumors chose to remain on the sidelines and stop depositing money. Such an abnormality naturally attracted the attention of the staff, who immediately reported it to the branch's manager. The Chong and branch's manager was a high-level banking talent that Meng Jida had hired during the Chinese New Year. His name was Li Wei, and he had dealings with Meng Jida in real life. "There's no need to panic. Handle it normally for them," Li Wei instructed. "Yes, sir." The staff retreated. An undetectable light flashed in Li Wei's eyes. The bank's manager's authority was unquestionable in the bank. Just like that, under Li Wei's suppression, the Bank of the Four Seas headquarters knew nothing about this storm. In just 2 hours, the flow of people withdrawing money in front of the Chong and branch became more and more intense. It looked like it was about to turn into a bank run. Slowly, the news of the Bank of the Four Seas run spread like wildfire throughout Chong and city. The more it spread, the more ridiculous it became. At this point, there was no need for someone behind the scenes to fan the flames. The players, who loved to join in on the fun, naturally came up with one shocking rumor after another. "Did you hear? The Bank of the Four Seas is about to close down." "It can't be, right?" "Why not? Go there and take a look. The streets are already packed with people withdrawing money." "Then I'll go as well." The rumors spread like a virus. The crowd, who originally wanted to watch the commotion, could no longer hold back and joined in when they saw so many people withdrawing money. At this point, the truth was no longer important. Everyone seemed to have lost their minds. The bank's entrance was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. At this time, Li Wei appeared unhurriedly and gave an official speech. Naturally, there was no effect at all. The bank's treasury was about to be emptied. According to the rules, the branch's treasury only kept a sum of emergency funds. Every once in a while, a large sum of money would be transferred to the treasury of Shanghai City. Such an arrangement was to ensure the safety of the bank's funds. Once the treasury was depleted, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Shopkeeper, why don't we inform the headquarters? Otherwise, it will be hard to clean up," the bank manager asked. "What are you panicking for? If we can't even handle such a small matter, how will the headquarters view our branch?" Li Wei's attitude was unyielding. "Instruct the front desk staff to slow down the processing speed." "Yes," the manager replied awkwardly. The manager knew very well that if he slowed down, it would be like drinking poison to quench his thirst. The most fundamental solution was to transfer a large amount of funds to the headquarters in order to alleviate the players' panic. Sure enough, someone came up with another trick. "Why are you dragging your feet? Are you out of money?" A young man who was withdrawing money suddenly shouted at the front desk staff, expressing his dissatisfaction. "I'm sorry, sir. Because there are too many people, please wait patiently." The staff replied, "What do you mean by too many people? You're obviously out of money. How long has it been? You're already out of money? I didn't believe it at first, but now I do. You must be using the reserves." The young man was unrelenting. This commotion naturally attracted the attention of the other players in the hall. When the others heard this, they became even more agitated. "Everyone calm down. The bank's treasury is very well stocked. Anyone who wants to withdraw money will definitely speed up the process. However, we have limited manpower, so please wait patiently." The manager came out to mediate. Words alone are no proof. With this commotion, the situation had already gone out of control. If it wasn't for the golden guards that Ouyang Shuo had planned out, the situation would have been in chaos. Even so, they probably wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The Bank of the Four Seas Chong and branch was going out of control under a series of schemes. Shanghai City, Southern Border Protectorate Manor. I want to see Madam. The Black Snake Guards commander, Black Snake, came to the back hall with a solemn expression. Commander Black Snake, what's the matter? After a while, Song Jiao walked in from the back hall. Her tone was filled with respect for Black Snake. After the two of them got married, Ouyang Shuo handed the Black Snake Guards over to Song Jia. After all, he often went out, and there were some things that he couldn't handle in time. Song Jia's identity was the most suitable. Madam, something happened at the Bank of the Four Seas Chong and branch, Black Snake reported. The crisis in Chong and City was getting more and more intense. The commander of the Black Snake Guards in Chong and finally realized that something was wrong and reported the situation to the headquarters in the form of an urgent letter. When Black Snake received the news, he realized that something was wrong and immediately went to find Song Jia. After hearing this, Song Jia didn't panic. She told Black Snake to leave first and paid attention to the situation. Use the power of the Chong and station to find out more, Song Jia ordered. Black Snake's eyes flashed with admiration when he heard this. As expected of the woman chosen by the Marquis, she does have the demeanor of a leader. Someone, Song Jia said. Here, ask Manager Meng to come, Song Jia said gently. Yes. While waiting, Song Jia picked up her brush and wrote more than 10 urgent letters. The sender was a member of the board of the Bank of the Four Seas. After a while, Meng Jida rushed over. Although Song Jia was his daughter's classmate, Meng Jida didn't overstep his boundaries. Madam, Meng Jida bowed. Manager Meng, take a look at this. Song Jia handed the report that the Black Snake Guards had compiled to Meng Jida. Meng Jida's hands couldn't help but tremble when he saw it. I didn't use the right people. Please punish me, madam. Meng Jida's face was full of shame. As the manager of the Bank of the Four Seas, he actually received such important information from the Protectorate of the Southern Border. It could be imagined that something must have happened at the Chang'an branch. At the very least, it was a mistake. Let's put the matter aside for now. We'll discuss it when the Marquis returns. Song Jia didn't deny it and said gently, what I mean is, I'll have to trouble Manager Meng to bring the funds and personally head to Chang and to stabilize the situation. If possible, it would be best to investigate the ins and outs of this matter. Understood. Meng Jida's face was firm. As an experienced banker, Meng Jida knew very well how terrifying it would be once the bank run spread. At that time, even if he clarified the rumors, it wouldn't be able to stop the bank run. After Meng Jida left, Song Jia started to arrange the side hall to welcome the board members. After receiving Song Jia's urgent message, Bai Hua and the rest rushed over. However, there were many people on the board, and they were all busy people. It wasn't easy to gather them all together. At 3 in the afternoon, everyone had arrived. The report that the Black Snake Guards had compiled was distributed to the members. Song Jia was tactful and knew that she couldn't completely replace Ouyang Shuo. After introducing the report, she didn't act as the host, but asked Vice President Feng Qiuhuang to host the meeting. Feng Qiuhuang didn't pass on this responsibility. She and Song Jia seemed to be competing. In the end, it was hard to calm down. This is a conspiracy. The eternal conspiracy theorist, Dragon Searching Acupoint, was the first to speak. There's no need to say such an obvious thing. Feng Qiuhuang rolled her eyes at Dragon Searching Acupoint and looked around. Let's discuss how to solve the current crisis. I'll settle the accounts with Chang and evening news regarding the rumors of Baleful Blood mercenary group. Bloody Romance didn't expect that someone would target him. His expression was cold. I think there's something fishy about this, Chang, and evening news, Bai Hua added. Then let's investigate who gave them the guts to play tricks with Shanghai Alliance. They're overestimating themselves. Feng Qiuhuang was still as domineering as ever. Of course we'll investigate. But the most important thing now is to refute the rumors. Otherwise, once the storm spreads, I'm worried that it will affect the other royal cities, Xie Yun reminded. Let's find by Xiaosheng. Feng Qiuhuang decided. There was nothing more effective than a detailed report on a specific topic. Bai Xiaosheng was obviously an expert in this field, and the two of them had a basis for cooperation. As for the rumors of embezzlement, we can invite some players and media to visit Shanghai City's treasury to prove our innocence, Song Jia suggested. That's a good idea. Other than that, I'm afraid that we'll need real information to question the profits of each territory. How about this? Let's selectively reveal the development plans of each territory, Feng Qiuhuang said. No problem. Toward Chang, an evening news slander, Siege Lion and the others' faces darkened. What do they mean by being unable to repay the loan? Wasn't this a slap to their faces? Other than refuting the rumors, we also have to be wary of the other party's backup plan, Bai Hua said. Everyone had a guess in their hearts. The person who could do such a thing was most likely from Yanhuang Alliance, and their goal was to attack the Bank of the Four Seas and raise Huidong Bank status. But this method was a little underhanded. If there's a cash flow problem, Snow Rose can urgently mobilize 1 million gold coins. CSCUN took the lead. Baleful Blood Mercenary Group can also mobilize 1 million gold coins. If there's a need, just say the word. This conspiracy had deepened Bloody Romance's recognition of Shanghai Alliance. Seeing this, Bai Hua and the others nodded in satisfaction. The leaders of the other guilds also expressed their opinions. The Bank of the Four Seas had a bright future ahead of them, and they definitely wouldn't give up on this road just because of a conspiracy. The resilience and unity of Shanghai Alliance would probably surprise their enemies, right? You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.